What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Friday show, gang. Congratulations, you made it to the end of your week. Lot of baseball to talk about. Tons of stuff on deck for today's show. 12-game slate on both sites. Nice gentle start time, no craziness, no rush to 6:45. We got a nice standard 7:05 start. A lot of lineups coming in already. I just threw an update up on the site. Looks like we just grabbed a couple more of them. I'm going to pop them into the model here. Guardians lineup is in. Got some really interesting killer spots showing in the model today. Talking about one of them a few minutes ago in Discord. What's the other one? St. Louis. There they are. So St. Louis, not one of those spots. Just the other lineup that was confirmed. Get that in there. But yeah, really interested little sneak preview in this team and this little pocket of power. That's kind of standing out a little bit. The averages for the A's, both numbers above the magic number for the full team. Only 3 guys in the lineup below the magic number. I almost made the rookie the home run pick of the day. I went a different direction. I wasn't going to use one of these guys. It was basically between the rookie and then another spot that I kind of like. And I went with Vladdy. And I did that because Vladdy was under 5,000 on DraftKings. He's 3,000 on FanDuel. And it just didn't look like he's drawing the ownership that he deserves against Logan Allen. Just a little sneak preview there of some things to come of what we're going to be talking about. You got the home run pick of the day already. And you got my favorite spot for power upside. And I do not think the A's, at least according to the ownership projections that I look at, and you guys know where I check those, they do not look popular enough. So looks like a pretty killer spot to me. We'll get into it. Kenny Woodhouse is here. What's going on, buddy? Handful of other people here hanging out to start the show. I know other people are live right now. I expect when Gun's done, we'll fill out a little bit more and we'll get some people trickling in. But big slate. I'm going to just kind of dive in. Some of these games we're going to do faster than others, as best I'm able. Today might be a day where we don't necessarily dive too crazily into like the 9-hitter like the Kyle Isbells of the world. We might just dismiss some of those guys with a hand wave because there's a ton of games on the board. Vegas just got an update a couple minutes ago. Up at the top of the board, Kansas City at the Orioles. Reasonable spot on either side. The Orioles, the home team, drawing a much bigger total. They're facing Michael Wacha, competent veteran pitcher, capable of giving you 6 fairly clean innings with a handful of strikeouts. I wouldn't rule him out on a smaller slate, but I see no real reason to use him to attack the Orioles when they're drawing nearly a 5-run total. So interesting spot for bats there. And then the Orioles have Dean Kramer on the mound. And honestly, that total feels a little light on the Kansas City side facing Dean Kramer. Very mediocre, middle of the road type pitcher. He's already given up more than 5 runs or 5 runs or more 3 different times this year. Low end strikeout pitcher. Don't love it. Yankees drawing one of the highest total on the board, 5.23 implied runs. One of 4 teams above the 5 mark, and then there's another 2 in the 4 nines. A lot of offense showing on the board today. Yanks are facing Ryan Pepio in Yankee Stadium. They're showing some upside for power. Jazz Chisholm Jr. went on the injured list today. They've got a call-up whose name I just put into the thing and already forgot. Yorvit Vivas at the bottom of the lineup today. He looks like a low-end hit tool and speed guy. Basically a utility infielder at the major league level, probably. But the Yanks still drawing down against Pepio. Still a lot of quality up at the top of that lineup. If nothing else, you can consider some Aaron Judge one-offs basically any day. So we'll give a look toward that. Oops. Wanted to be over here. And then the Rays facing Max Fried. I don't love it. You can always get to that lineup a little bit, but they're drawing just a 3.38 implied total. Fried is typically very good at keeping the ball in the yard. He pitches deep into games, so I'm much more interested in the Max Fried side of that equation. Much more interested in Blue Jays bats and that 4.76 implied total they're drawing against Logan Allen, who kind of a nothing lefty. I watched him give up 7 earned runs in person the other day, including a home run, 2 strikeouts, 3 walks in that game. Was pretty bad in that one. He had been pitching okay, and he can have his days. But I like the upside for power that we're seeing in the Blue Jays lineup, and just they've that lineup is slightly deeper with Dalton Varsho back and some other guys there. So I think we're considering Blue Jays bats. No Logan Allen really on the board. And then Guardians bats, Chris Bassett's on the mound for Toronto. He's given up 4 runs in each of his last 2 starts. Only moderate strikeouts outside of 2 games. He had a 10 strikeout game and then a 9 strikeout game. One came against the Mets, one came against the Braves, 2 pretty different teams as far as Ks are concerned. Bassett's another guy, solid veteran pitcher that I have enough faith to play against this Guardians team for sure, and he's checking them down under 4 runs. But there's also not a ton of reason to go there outside of maybe a price advantage that we'll look at. I would throw some Guardians bats against him, though. He's gettable enough. As mentioned, this looks like a killer spot. The A's are one of the 4 teams drawing a 5, but they are not seemingly getting enough credit for it on the popularity boards that I was looking at. On the other side of that, they're going up against Valente Belloso, by the way, which obviously translates to Valiant Bozo in Spanish. It doesn't. He just is very, very gettable. He's got a lot of home run struggles in his history. His brief time in the majors, he gave up a ton of home runs last year, 5+% home run rate, had similar numbers throughout the minors. The one oddball thing that's going to stand out that people will ask about is that he hasn't yet given up a home run in either minor league ball or in the show this year. Handful of starts, several very short outings. Trust me, the power's coming. On the Marlins side of that one, they're facing a rookie, Gunnar Hoglund, fairly high-end rookie for the Athletics. Should be kind of an interesting spot. He might go a little bit under the radar at a very cheap price for facing that Marlins lineup. He's essentially stretched out. He's working 5-6 innings in AAA. So it's a pretty good upside pitcher going up against one of the lower-end lineups. But Vegas is pulling a little credit toward the Marlins, 4.5 run total. We don't typically see that team at that level. So something to be concerned about there. But on a price basis, definitely something we're going to at least talk about on the pitching board. The Twins and the Red Sox. The Red Sox are facing Joe Ryan, who is a gettable ace, which is a weird combination of things. Ryan's quality can tend to come and go. Last start, 7 innings against the Angels. He struck out 11. He shut him out, 4-hitter. The game before that, 5 innings against the Braves. He allowed 6 earned runs on 8 hits, struck out 5, allowed 3 home runs. Had a 2 home run game earlier in the season against Houston, but all the other games he's pitched pretty clean and has not allowed power. It was upper 3s home run rate last season, which is kind of what I look at when I say that he's a gettable ace. You can get him for power, but a lot of the time it'll end up being one of those games where, yeah, you hit a 3-run homer against him, but that's all you did, and he still looked pretty good by the end of the day. But a little upside comes through on the Red Sox. That's also just a good lineup. They're pulling a 4.5 implied total against him. It's basically a dead even game. The Sox have Brian Bayo on the mound. His 3rd start of the season. He pitched in that game I saw at Cleveland as well. He was pretty good. Allowed 3 earned runs, a home run, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks. That's a typical Brian Bayo start. That's him on a good day. So big believer in the 4.5 run total that the Twins are pulling. They're looking interesting. Would definitely prefer to target Bayo with Twins bats than I would Joe Ryan with Red Sox bats, even though the Red Sox are the better of those 2 lineups. But realistically, it's at least 3 out of those 4 corners are in play. I'd say Ryan and bats on both sides. I'm not a big believer in Bayo. Yamamoto's on the mound for the Dodgers. Looks like a big upside spot for him. Definitely can find some Ks against that Braves lineup. And then it's Grant Holmes on the mound for the Braves. He's been fairly effective outside of his most recent outing. He'd been pretty good up until he ran into the Diamondbacks. 5 2/3, gave up 6 earned, 3 home runs, 4 strikeouts, and 3 walks. Kind of went pop in that one. Facing the Dodgers today, obviously the elite of elite lineups, 5.15 implied total on their side. We'll certainly consider some Dodgers bats. We'll consider their pitcher. Braves bats are going to be interesting. Enough healthy respect for Yamamoto. He's doing enough to their numbers to suppress power that maybe it's not the best spot. We'll talk it through. Astros looking very good against the White Sox. Nearly a 5-run total. That's an easy spot. It's Jonathan Cannon on the bump for Chicago. It's Framber Valdez going up against one of the worst lineups in baseball for the Astros. You can see what he's doing to the total. 3.18 implied total for the White Sox. They did get Chase Meadroff back yesterday. We didn't talk about that during the show. It surprised me. I was expecting him to come back over the weekend like the reporting was, and he popped back up yesterday. So it at least lengthens the ability to stack that White Sox team with 3 bats now instead of just kind of 2 quality bats. Astros very much in play against Jonathan Cannon. Mariners, Rangers, Brian Wu, Jack Leiter, two pretty good young pitchers. Leiter, not sure we're going to get a ton of depth out of. He only went 3 1/3. He missed a couple of weeks after starting on this April 2nd. Didn't come back until the 27th, went 3 1/3 in that one. So I really question the utility on Leiter. The 4.35 implied total on the Mariners side is also discouraging for that. Could find some Ks while he's in the game, though. And then Wu going up against the Rangers looks very solid despite that 4.24 implied total. Feels a little bit high against him. So I like that option. The Cubs and the Brewers, it's Ben Brown against Quinn Priester. Pretty gettable spots on either side. Ben Brown, between the two, probably has displayed more talent at the major league level, but it's pretty close. He's been gotten a couple times already this season. 6 earned runs in his last outing. That was with the Phillies. 3 2/3 to the Phils, against the Phils, rather. 9 hits, struck out 5. Didn't allow a home run in that, so just got sequenced to death, but wasn't good. 4 innings against the Diamondbacks before that. Faced the Dodgers and was very good over 6. You can get some upside out of either of these guys, but I think we're pretty much looking at bats with a 9-run total and mid-4s on both sides, and one very good lineup and one pretty good lineup. Clay Holmes is on the mound for the Mets. He's been very interesting this year. The strikeouts have been coming and going. He has yet to allow a home run this year, and that is an attribute for him. So that's definitely making an impact on the Cards upside. And then the Mets are going to be facing Sonny Gray, who is still a very good veteran right-hand pitcher. The strikeouts have been kind of mixed so far this year. He's got 3 games where he only struck out 4, a couple of games where he struck out 6, but the depth is there. The quality in general is there. Mets just a very, very good lineup. Both of those teams below 4 runs, though. I think we can mine some pitching out of that one. Tigers and the Angels, 7.5 runs here. This is another interesting one. It's Tarek Skubal on the mound for the Tigers. He's checked the Angels down under 3.25 runs, 3.16. Very low total. No Mike Trout. Trout went on the IL, but expects to be back shortly. We can only hope. Skubal rounding into form, 11 Ks over 6 shutout innings, 4-hitter against Baltimore his last time out. We can hope for tons and tons of upside. We did see Paul Skeens, though, have a clunker yesterday at a very high price tag, so that it's baseball. That can happen. Soriano's on the mound for the Angels. Another guy who could typically, can be good at suppressing power. He's allowed 3 home runs all season, but that comes in 6 starts. He's been pretty effective, but a low strikeout. Don't love the idea of throwing him at the Tigers. Vegas doesn't really want to chase that either at a 4.43 implied total. And then we round things out with the Colorado Rockies facing Robbie Ray, which is a very popular pitching spot today. You guys know that I don't trust Robbie Ray. We've talked about that a lot over the last couple of seasons. It is easily going up against the worst high strikeout lineup in baseball, but the Rockies are pulling some power against Robbie Ray because Robbie Ray can always get got for home runs. He's been bad for walks. He looks like the bad roller coaster version of Robbie Ray, not the good Cy Young version of Robbie Ray. So I do think that's a hyper playable spot, but I would definitely consider at least a couple hedge Rockies, even if it's just one-offs with some of their good power bats. And I'm skeptical as to what the actual quality there if people get overweight to them. I think that's an easy spot to turn from because there are so many good options. Speaking of, bunch of people here hanging out. Not a lot of activity in the chat. Hit the like button and subscribe at least. You don't have to say hi in the chat, but it does help and gives us things to talk about. If you guys say hi, drop questions, talk to one another, talk to me, etc., etc. Jump into the Discord as well. That's always free to everybody. The website is under $1 a day for access to MLB, NBA, and NHL right now. NFL when it comes back, anything and everything in between. You get all of it under $1 a day. Trying to keep your bankroll in your account and in your pocket. Skubal, the obvious name at the top of the board. Plenty of strikeouts available. No Mike Trout. It seems like it's a pretty straightforward spot. 10-6, 10-5. I have no issues paying those prices for him in that spot. Get him as a late night hammer. I kind of like it. Robbie Ray, again, going up against Colorado. Those prices are spectacular. I just have very little faith in the pitcher in terms of his ongoing quality, in terms of his reliability, in terms of his history. Yes, we've seen him be one of the very best left-handed pitchers in baseball. We've also seen him be a total mess. Truth is somewhere in between. That Rockies lineup obviously pushes him up the board. I fully believe that he should be projected number 2 on this slate or thereabout. I think he should be very, very popular. But I think if you're looking to get away from the field, that's probably the easiest spot to get away from the field because you've got Tarek Skubal there, because you've got Yamamoto and Framber Valdez. Yes, they're at different prices. If you need to save money, I could give you... That's where we get a little sticky. If you want to save money, I think you could get through the Orioles with Michael Wacha for cheaper. I think you could get through Detroit with Jose Soriano for cheaper. I think you could get through Minnesota with maybe a few Ks from Brian Bayo, but probably not. That bottom of the board is really ugly today. Chris Bassett should be cheaper in that spot. That would be the guy that like should be the good alternative to Robbie Ray. But the fact that he's more expensive is annoying. On DraftKings, all right, there you go. I didn't spot it right away on DK. This pocket right here on DraftKings, that's where you go. Clay Holmes, Sonny Gray, Brian Wu for cheaper than Robbie Ray. I like any one of those 3 options better if Robbie Ray's popularity is out of hand. I might just like them better in a vacuum outside of just that matchup. Obviously, all 3 of these teams are better than Colorado. Really like what Clay Holmes has done. Again, the strikeouts have come and go a little bit, but he's been excellent. The underlying numbers support all of the excellence. Yet to allow a homer this season, keeps the ball down. Really like the upside for Clay Holmes in the ongoing sense. Sonny Gray and Ace didn't get the credit for how good he was last year, but a brutal matchup against the Mets at 9,500 on FanDuel. There are other ways to turn with basically this entire pocket of pitchers all at the same price. And then Woo, I just love the upside. Very good strikeout to walk pitcher. That Texas lineup, still no Corey Seager. There's quality there, but they're also scuffling a lot. There are Ks there. So that's a really good spot. I would pay 96 for that. I would pay 95, 91 for those guys. These are really good prices. Max against Tampa Bay definitely is interesting. That's a very good shot at 7 innings, your quality start on FanDuel, keeping that Tampa team off the board. 95 on DraftKings, not a bad price. 10-4 would pay it on FanDuel. But if I'm going to that level, I'm probably just going another $200 higher for Skubal or $100 higher for Yamamoto. That's an interesting one. The back and forth there. Maybe not, because that Atlanta lineup man for man is probably better than Tampa Bay. So Skubal would be the guy to go up to there. And then I'd be tempted to just save the $1,200 and go down the board to Framber Valdez. So it'll be interesting to see how popular Free gets at 10-4 on FanDuel. Joe Ryan, just a bumpy opponent in Boston with all the power, with several very good lefty bats. But again, Joe Ryan, a very good pitcher who does have strikeout upside in that spot. I fully believe in the projection being where it should be. He's just in a pretty high danger spot. This one will be interesting. That's a pretty good value price for that projection. I think Brown's got the ability to get there. It'll be interesting to see him do it. I'm on the fence about that one. I thought about that one for a long time, whether I wanted to bring it down a little bit. But I let him go. I think the arsenal's pretty good. The cut line, I have enough faith that I would say you could play Pepio. On the right day, he gets through that Yankees lineup over 6, finds some strikeouts. There are plenty of Ks for the Yanks, and they were diminished by no Gleyber Torres. Yeah, he's also not there. No Jazz Chisholm Jr. But the cut line, I probably wouldn't go there. And I think that's your cut line. Maybe you get away with Quinn Priester. Oh, and then Hoagland. This is the interesting wild card. Since you get that for $4,000, and I am expecting him to get the opportunity to pitch 5 innings today, it's not like it's an opener. So that's really interesting on DK. On FanDuel, I think it's playable, but you're not getting your shot at a quality start on a day where we're expecting some big pitcher scores. So just bear that in mind. It has value. Depends on how you're building your lineups, but it could also have not enough. You could still, even on a good day, he doesn't get that quality start bonus. He comes away with 28 points. You might not make that up with those bats. So just bear in mind how the value on FanDuel differs from the value on DraftKings. You actually probably could roll lighter against Seattle on a normal day, but again, I think the innings will be shortened a little bit, and then just none of these guys work for me at all. Priester against the Cubs is at least properly priced. Same with Kramer against the Royals, but those aren't really good options. Let's dive on into some game by game. I'll try my best to remember to check for lineups as we go. Doesn't look like we got the Royals yet. We do have the Orioles. They've been in. So, Michael Wacha, 3.38 ERA, but a 4.31 xFIP, kind of telling us the truth underneath it. Over 166 and 2/3 last year, it was basically the same thing. 3.35 ERA with a 4.14 xFIP, 21.2% strikeouts. It's down to 19 so far this year, but there's nothing to really indicate that he couldn't push that back up to 21 over the course of more games. Hasn't been bad in terms of premium contact and power, and that's pretty much an attribute. So that's what I mean when I say that Michael Wacha could get through this Orioles team that's been so up and down this season. I think he's on the board. 6 innings his last time out. He struck out 6, allowed 4 hits. That was against the Astros. This lineup has a 23.2% strikeout rate, the lineup that he's going to be facing today that Baltimore threw out there, 23% for the same group of hitters last year. There's upside for a 6 strikeout, 6 inning day from Michael Wacha, a run or two. There's also upside for him to get tattooed. The Orioles are drawing a 4.91 implied total for a reason. Vegas is expecting them to take him up to his xFIP and beyond. And I can't disagree. This is a too good of a lineup to struggle. Too good of a lineup to not project them well against a middle-of-the-road type veteran pitcher. You can see below average stuff. Doesn't really induce that many swinging strikes. Needs to pick up on the strike throwing overall. He's been walking too many, putting too many guys on base. This team can capitalize on that. Going the other way, Dean Kramer at 55. Another guy who comes in moderately projected, pitching to a 7.04 ERA, but that's helped by the 4.73 xFIP, but this is still not a good number at all. He's better than that, but not much. Last year, 4.10 ERA, a 4.34 xFIP. Struck out 22.2%, but that came on a 9.3% swinging, 26.8% CSW. There's not a ton to work with there outside of the fact that he's very, very cheap. This Royals lineup has been not as good as we expect, although Vinny, hopefully signs of life lately. But if you look, I mean, this is a 4-man, 4.5-man lineup. Freddie Fermin does have a good hit tool, so we kind of got to mix him in. Maybe it's a 5-man lineup if we give him and Massey credit for being a half a man apiece. I don't mean that in the physical I want to fight them sense. I mean that in just like what they count for in that sense. So I think Kramer has just enough that you could keep him in that cheap bargain bin SP2 conversation. But with the $4,000 Hogland option on the board, I don't know that you want to go to Dean Kramer against what is supposed to be a low strikeout, good high contact Royals team. That's the kind of team that should be able to just take this pitcher apart. Royals bats at a 4.19 implied total. Very interesting. Again, with all the contact that Kramer allows, 14.3% strikeout rate so far this year. The low strikeout rates and the high contact frequency that this team has, that should add up to offense. Jonathan India should be on base a few times. Should be providing correlated scoring better than he has so far. At least you're getting him cheap. Third base and outfield, 3,200, 2,700 with second base eligibility on FanDuel. You stick him at second on FanDuel or in the outfield only on DraftKings. I say heavy, quotes on the word only there. You can use him at third base, but he diminishes your third base position where he's just another outfielder. 58 and 36 for Bobby Witt. A little bit cheap on both sites for his talent. 322, 400, 496, a 149 WRC plus so far this season. Absolutely fantastic option at shortstop any given slate. One-offs of Bobby Witt are very much in play against this pitcher. Pushing an 11 in the home run model, the only guy on the Royals who is above the magic number. We'll see whether or not Sal Perez is in the lineup. He came out of the game yesterday. They haven't announced anything yet. I'm a little bit skeptical as to whether he plays tonight. Hopefully he avoids the injured list stint. We probably don't get him here. But Vinny Pasquantino still ludicrously cheap for his talent, 3,100, 2,800. We just have too much history to care about the 185, 246, 336. He hit his 4th home run the other day on a day where we talked about him and said to keep the faith. I like the upside. I think we're picking things back up. He's finding the timing. He's cut a point and change off of strikeout over the last week or so. Love the bat and love how cheap it is. Michael Garcia at 37.27, slashing 296, 353, 435. Has a 347 xWOBA. His creator runs 22% better than average. 2 homers, 7 steals. Had a 3 stolen base game the other day. I believe that was also on a day where I said if he's getting on base this much, he needs to start running more. The Royals are listening. Michael Massey, just decent left-handed contact against a high contact righty. I think makes a lot of sense to take shares of Michael Massey if you're drawing from this team. You do have the second base discussion with him and Michael Garcia. Garcia good enough to go third base, though. So if you just went straight 5, you could do it. Outfield for India, short first, third base for Garcia, and then second base for Mike Massey. I really am not invested in the bottom of the lineup, but Fenneman is a reasonable catcher option on DraftKings at 2,400, just given his hit tool. He's got a home run on the board. He's slashing 260, 302, 340 over 54 plate appearances. Last year over 368. That was 271, 319, 366. He only had a 91 WRC plus. He only hit 6 home runs, wasn't really involved, didn't really hit for power. Year before, 9 home runs, went 281, 321, 461. Creator runs 8% better than average. So if you combine those 2 seasons, he's around average for run creation. He's around a 280 hitter. It's a good hit tool for a very cheap catcher. All you're looking for is for him to put the ball in play a little bit. If he drives somebody in or puts, counting stats on the board, so much the better. It's a bonus. On the Orioles side, Cedric Mullins is really interesting in the leadoff spot until further notice, but we're already seeing the cool down kind of normalization a little bit. 278, 412, 515, 358 xWOBA, creating runs 72% better than average. 6 home runs, 5 steals. The production's been fantastic. He's looked like the Cedric Mullins of old, but he's very high priced now at 56 on DraftKings, 600 more than the next most expensive Orioles bat. On FanDuel, at least they're somewhat reasonable in terms of where he is priced against the rest of that lineup, but he's also the most expensive Orioles bat on that site. It's a little bit up there, but he's a very productive player over time for both home runs and stolen bases. Gunnar Henderson, 5,000, 3,200 on the other hand is a bargain. So if you're just looking at it and averaging those 2 prices, paying 53 a piece, that's a little more reasonable. 32 a piece, obviously, is I didn't even need to do that. But just the idea that Gunner's a little cheap makes up for the fact that Cedric is a little bit expensive. Henderson, 9.2% barrels, 56.9% hard hits, 3 home runs and 3 steals in his 97 plate appearances. Everything else has been a little bit ugly, a little bit off. Just trust in the talent. Everything's going to come around. The barrels are slightly down, but the hard hits are slightly up in the small sample. It's going to normalize in a hurry. Adley, 47-29, 4 home runs on the board, slashing just 222, 330, 364. The on base is fine. The xWOBA at 390 tells us everything's going to come roaring to life. 9.9% barrels. He's making great contact. He doesn't strike out. He does draw walks. It's a killer option for under 5,000 on DraftKings at catcher. 2,900, you can play him at first base. You can play him at util on FanDuel in conjunction with one of the other first basemen. No issues either way. Ryan O'Hearn versus Ryan Mountcastle, lefty-righty conversation. O'Hearn at least has outfield eligibility on DraftKings, which helps. On FanDuel, you do have, you've actually got the outfield eligibility there as well, so you can avoid the positional conflict. You could play all 3 guys together. It's a cheap stretch of talent, of power. I know Ryan Mountcastle hasn't been good so far this year. Between him and O'Hearn, I would probably just take the lefty. Slightly higher price on both sides, but worth it. 292, 378, 542. Going up against a medium contact righty. I like Ryan O'Hearn's upside for a double, a couple of base hits, and a couple runs scored. Maybe he gets on the board with a little power. 6.11 in the home run model. 250 ISO so far this season with a 403 xWOBA in support. Mountcastle, I just have faith in this level of premium contact and the fact that he's done it before. I know the production has come and gone over the last couple of seasons. He was bad last year. 13 home runs. Pretty weak for power, 154 ISO. The 271, 308, 425 is fine. He was an okay run creator at 108 WRC plus. 18 home runs the year before that, 114 WRC plus, 22 home runs back in 2022. It's been diminished for power, but the contact is very, very real. He's good enough at those prices at 36.26. Jackson Holiday, 247 through 22, 358, just 1% better than average for run creation. We really need the skills to engage at some point at the major league level. It's been very up and down, but can easily come up with a big knock at second base for a cheap price. I don't mind it. Would play him at second base, probably a lower end option at shortstop on the FanDuel slate. Ramon Urias, I talk about him every time he's in the lineup because he is an interesting, cheap power bat down there that nobody goes to. Over 82 plate appearances, he's found a pair of home runs that were low owned, 292, 354, 403 in the meantime, creating runs 21% better than average. Don't really care about his underlying xWOBA that tells us that, the production's going to come down because of course it is from 292, 354. That's not who he is. What I'm looking for from Ramon Urias are the dozen or so home runs that he's going to hit at no ownership down at the bottom of this lineup when I stack him for a cheap price. Histon Kjerstad, Ramon Laureano, both have a little power upside, both very inconsistent players. You can put them both in stacks, but they're lower priority options. This goes Orioles bats, Royals bats, Michael Wacha, and then Dean Kramer, and both of those are probably relegated to DraftKings. Ray's lineup does not look like it has arrived yet. Oh, Emac in. What's going on, buddy? Our old pal. Batters of Birdland will take flight soon. Yeah, total faith in that lineup coming through. 8 game says Wacha and Kramer removed from the player pool like the bats here. Yeah, no issues with that decision either. I think that's you definitely are better off removing pitchers than hitters from player pools. I would never remove a pool of bats. But for facing Scooble or whatever, doesn't really matter. You leave the bats in, you'll get to them very minimally anyway, and in appropriate portions for their upside as a wild card. But bad pitching against good lineups, you can easily just take it out so that you don't actually accidentally get to any. If it comes through, it comes through. And like we saw, what was yesterday on DraftKings, the winning pairing, and it was like Colin Ray and whoever the other low end pitcher was, the 2 worst options on the board. It happens. It's baseball. Andy's here. Happy Friday, Andy. That was 8 game that was talking about Wacha and Kramer. Good to see you too, bud. Oh, he's got cat. Yeah, don't get yourself in trouble texting and driving with cameras in your cab in the work truck. Yankees on the board with the highest implied run total, 5.23. As mentioned, Jazz Chisholm went on the injured list, so obviously don't play him. And we get Yorbi Vivas at the bottom of the lineup. Deadman Price at second base on DraftKings, 2,200 at second base on FanDuel. Doesn't look like much of a bat. 9 home runs in the minors last year, 21 steals, but /225, 348, 358. Maybe we can look at him for correlated scoring. He is low strikeout, high walk. I'll give him that much. 16.7% strikeout, 13.8% walk. Year before, 11-6 and 11-3, hit 13 home runs, stole 25 bases. You know what? I'm coming around on him a little bit. He's 24, playing in AAA. He doesn't have power. But given the extreme low strikeout and extreme high walk, excellent on base numbers throughout his minor league career so far, becomes a little bit more interesting. I think ultimately he's just a utility guy. But just 50 grade hit tool, 50 grade speed type. I'm not looking for power, but the idea of him as a min price wraparound back up to there now has some appeal. That's interesting because we could go 1. Let's say we include Trent Grisham, who typically I'd be more inclined to skip, but we've got 2 first basemen there. So 1, 2, obvious. Tough call between Rice and Goldie. And Belly for 45 against as a lefty against Pepio here. So, I mean, with just those 4 clicks, I'm at $4,200 a man for a stack that includes Cody Bellinger and Aaron Judge and Trent Grisham for whatever it's worth against a gettable righty in Yankee Stadium, a guy with a 5.44 home run rate from the team with the highest implied total. Feels pretty cheap to be able to get Aaron Judge at that price. So let's say we go Goldie, that keeps it around 42. If you go to a very high price Ben Rice, it's 43.80, so call it 44. That's a pretty affordable Yankees 5-man. Makes things work down there. Given that skill set, I prefer him to Oswaldo Cabrera, a more established major league semi-regular. As we've discussed before, Cabrera not a 291, 364, 354 hitter. He hit 1 home run so far this season. He's creating runs 13% better than average. The xWOBA tells you that story. No barrels, mid-30s hard hit rate. We've seen this stretches like this of productivity from Ozzy before. That's not who he is. 1 through 7 in the Yankees lineup, pretty damn interesting against this pitcher in this ballpark, and the price on 9, regardless of what he actually ends up doing out on the field, is very interesting. Ryan Pepiot on the mound at 7,800, though, as mentioned, could get through this Yankees team and find some strikeouts along the way. There are Ks here. This lineup, taking Bibas out of the picture, 22.5% strikeout rate. Presumably, he would help lower that slightly, but there are Ks here. Pepiot striking out 23.1% of hitters. He's walking 8.2, which is too high. 4.24 ERA, but a nice tidy 3.69 xFIP tells us that he's actually talented, which we know from last year. 13.4% swinging strike rate. That's where those Ks are going to come from against this team that's going to be swinging for the fences. So, outside of Judge, maybe not the best plate discipline for some of these guys. Could be a day where you don't necessarily want some Anthony Volpe, who's going to be up there flailing. Ben Rice, we'll see. He does have decent plate discipline, but also a high strikeout rate. So Pepiot definitely not off the board at that price on DraftKings. But again, we do have some super discounted SP2s. On FanDuel, it's a little bit more difficult to see. At 87, that's closing in on the very top of the board. The same conversation exists about his strikeout upside, but now we're talking about needing to get to the 6th inning, through the 6th inning, get the quality start. It gets dicey on FanDuel for the money. If he was in the lower 8s, maybe it would be more interesting. But a very capable kid. Last year, 26.3% strikeouts, 3.60 ERA, a 4.05 xFIP. Gave up a few home runs along the way, but non-tragic. What could get interesting is the high launch angle of the barrel rates allowed. That's gone up a little bit this year, but the launch has actually calmed down. But he's given up 5+% home runs so far. 41% hard hits and 90+ miles an hour of exit velo. Little bit of a stretch. 2 home runs allowed to this Yankees team 2 games ago. 2 home runs allowed to Boston the game before that. 3 home runs allowed to LA the game before that. Bumpy stretch for power there. Was finding his Ks. In his most recent game, he faced San Diego at San Diego, struck out just 3, but allowed only 1 earned run on 3 hits, and presumably got right again. Max, 9,500, 10-4, easily worth it. 7 innings in the cards here. Handful of strikeouts with strikeout upside from his usual 20, 21%, 22%. Definitely on the board here against the team with pulling a 24.6. This Rays team improved by the addition of Chandler Simpson up top. Very good hit tool. Fastest man in baseball. Going to be stealing a ton of bases. Anytime he gets on, he'll be running. So that's something to watch for. But they're a gettable bunch. After those 2 up top, that averages to a 28.1% strikeout rate. So Max has an opportunity to shine here. Was missing strikeouts in his last 2 games. Last time out against Toronto, a low strikeout team, 6 innings, just 3 Ks. Game before that against this Tampa team, actually, in Tampa, 7 2/3. That was the no-hitter he had going. He only struck out 2 in that game, walked 2. But that was a no-hitter for a while. Then the score changed the score, and then he allowed a hit. But excellent outing. I do think you could draw some Rays bats against, but it's low end. Max cuts into your power upside. You can see everybody through this lineup, even Junior Caminero, Chris Morel, just over halfway to the magic number. Brendan Lau just over halfway. Everybody else well below that. So it doesn't look like a good spot. You're just trying to find them for sequencing. And if we're looking at that, I'm on Max's side here, even with the Yankees' bad defense to throw that into the mix. Vegas is on Max's side at a 3.38 implied total. So it's pretty low end. You'd be hunting for sequencing, chase Max earlier than expected, and then maybe some power upside against the bullpen. They do have bats, no questioning it. Johnny Diaz on his way back, hopefully 254, 299, 413. Creating runs 6% better than average despite that start. 50% hard hit rate is in line. Strikeouts and walks are about where they're supposed to be. Needs to walk a little bit more to get back to normal. Simpson's a great piece up top. Chris Morel, excellent swing. 22.9% barrels is ridiculous, but it represents his swing speed and his fast twitch ability. 3 home runs, 2 steals on the board, a 114 WRC plus, and a very interesting 356 xwOBA. Junior Caminero, cheap at 43.28. 6 home runs, 256, 290, 462. He's created run 16% better than average. Barreling the ball 11% of his batted ball events, 52.7% hard hits. Junior Caminero is a star to be, and he's very cheap. It's just not a good matchup against Max. Brandon Lau would be a priority. If I'm taking Rays, even against a lefty here, Brandon Lau would be a priority if he's in the lineup. Just for that bat, just for the ability to draw against the short porch and right in Yankee Stadium. Danny Jansen, Curtis Mead, Jose Caballero, and Taylor Walls, all playable mix and match pieces, but only in the sense if you're stacking Rays. I don't want any one of those guys as a one-off. I don't want any one of those guys just for cheap positional flexibility, really. There's really not that much appeal down lineup, especially against this pitcher. I do think you could one-off any one of 1 through 5, but again, you're taking a low-end one-off there with a pitcher who cuts power, so it's probably not a good idea. They're just talented enough guys to do that with. On the Yankees side, we talked about the ability to stack them for a cheap price here. Looking man for man, Trent Grisham's had one of the best stretches of 81 plate appearances in his entire career. There's no denying it. 8 home runs, 292, 370, 639. That's absurd. A 410 xwOBA. He's been destroying baseball, 16.4% barrels, 50.9% hard hits. The fact that they haven't raised his price for the production, I mean, one probably speaks to what I was about to say about his career history and knowing enough about this player to know that it's not really real. But that also still makes him very, very playable. We don't have to worry about the fact that it's not real because they've got him priced like he was just, the average Trent Grisham. So if you get the average Trent Grisham, then fine, so be it. We're just taking the cheap price off the board. So it totally works, especially in the leadoff spot, hitting ahead of Aaron Judge, who finally in his deserved home in the 2 spot. Hopefully Boone wakes up and just plays him there every day. Judge just slashing 427, 521, 761. A 501 xwOBA, a 262 WRC plus. His creator runs 162% better than the average player. They showed it on the broadcast the other day. Let's see if I can get it real quick. Come on. Doesn't want to load. Judgy cracked the, I believe it was the top 5 for career WRC plus the other day. Is he not on this list? What is the qualifier here? Oh, it doesn't matter. He was on the list next to Babe Ruth and Barry Bonds and guys like that, which is where he belongs. That was the point I was going to illustrate. Oh, this is why. For some reason, the board it was showing me cut off at 2018. Now, where is he? There he is, number 6. Josh Gibson, 202 is bananas. In the majors, Babe Ruth, 194. Ted Williams, 187. And then Aaron Judge, 176. So technically third behind Babe Ruth and Ted Williams. Ahead of Barry Bonds. 3 points ahead of Barry Bonds. 5 points ahead of Lou Gehrig. 7 points ahead of Mickey Mantle. Mike Trout's on that list too. Trouty 168, 13th. And again, some of deservedly, some of the Negro Leagues players are in here now. So it's just that I mentioned that because it skews where they, when I say Aaron Judge was 6th against the other former major leaguers, he was 3rd. But again, those guys absolutely deserve to be there, and it's about time they were. Carlos Soto, what's going on? So the point of all of that was Aaron Judge, very good at baseball. Ben Rice, 5,000, 3,600. Good price for a guy who's been murdering the ball this season. 21.2% barrels, 60.6% hard hits. We'll see how long this lasts. I do think he's a good hitter. I had no intentions of thinking that he was anywhere near along the lines of as good as he has been. I think we do cool, but I think we get continuous power through the season. The barrels are obviously going to come down from where they are. The hard hits are going to come down from where they are. The real question to me is, given a 418 xWOBA so far, how much decline do we really expect in 266, 373, 585? It's difficult to gauge. 25.5% strikeout rate. There are Ks there for Ryan Pepiot as illustrated. Paul Goldschmidt has been excellent for the Yankees. 356, 403, 475. More of a doubles hitter now. Not really focused on the home run ball, just getting on base like crazy, just putting good plate appearances together. 19.2% strikeout rate, down from 26.5 last year in the small sample. 9.5% barrels, still can put good bat on ball, but has just been an excellent run creator for this team. Cody Bellinger, on the other end, has been a total mess. Who could have predicted that Cody Bellinger coming to the Yankees would be a disaster? 204, 281, 357. I was happy they went and tried it. It hopefully normalizes and we'll be fine. I'm not overreacting yet, but it does not shock me at all that he's off to a bad start with the Yankees. Just one of those things. Anthony Volpe, 237, 328, 456, but a 219 ISO at 352 xWOBA, 5 home runs on the board. As mentioned, this could be a day for Anthony Volpe to be up there flailing, 3-4 strikeout day, but if he connects, he can definitely drive the ball. 11.3% barrels, 47.5% hard hits. Austin Wells exceeds both of those numbers, is an excellent lefty bat behind the plate, 5 home runs on the board. Struggling with the slash line so far, just a 305 xWOBA. We're looking for him for power. We're looking for him for the premium contact. 245 ISO so far this season. I'll take my shot with $3,700 Austin Wells where I need a catcher on DraftKings. You can play him on FanDuel, but he's a lower priority bat than any of the other first base eligible options. Yankees bats, Max Fried, Ryan Pepiot. Pepiot much more so on DraftKings than on FanDuel if you're going to do it. Both lineups in this game. Really not interested in Logan Allen. Weak stuff. Hasn't really developed at this level. He made 20 starts last year. 5.73 ERA, 4.75 xFIP. That's who Logan Allen is right now. 5.09% home run rate kind of stands out there. 24 starts the year before that. Was better for allowing power. Had a 3.81 ERA, but a 4.29 xFIP. But way too many guys on base. It's just never really rounded into form. 5 mediocre starts this year, 4.98 xFIP, walking 11+%, striking out under 16%, just a 5.9% swinging. Has miraculously not allowed more than, I think it's been 1 home run or 2 home runs. I like Vladdy to get him today. I made Vladdy the home run pick of the day. 4 home runs on the board for Vlad this season, carrying a 400 xWOBA under the covers despite the 155 ISO. I think everything's going to be just fine for power. 15.2% barrels, 54.3% hard hits. Not only looks exactly like who he was last year, but also very much on our side in terms of expecting the major surge sometime very soon. 18.7% strikeouts. It's up a little bit from the 13.8, the spectacular numbers from last year, but it's still very, very good. Drawing slightly higher walk rate as well. Bo Bichette, 293, 326, 368. Still looking for his first homer. Still looking for a little bit of the pop to come back in the bat. But barrels are actually up. Hard hits are actually up. They're not quite where they once were. Actually, a hard hit is above, but the barrels aren't quite where they once were. But he's very low strikeout, low walk, high frequency of quality batted ball events. That's all we're looking for here against a pitcher like this. 41.28. He's very, very cheap. It is easy to build with this top group of hitters on the Blue Jays. Anthony Santander, 4,000, 2,800. 4 home runs, otherwise terrible. 293 xWOBA doesn't really give us any encouragement there. Just ride the career history. Know that this is an excellent power bat. 178, 258, 314, and a whole lot of who cares there. 35% worse than average for run creation. Again, do not care. Just want to buy the cheap power. George Springer at 44, 3,000. Good start for him over 102. 14.3% barrel rate is probably the most encouraging thing. Drives the 366 xWOBA here. 306, 406, 482. It's been excellent. Creating runs 57% better than average. Alejandro Kirk, mix and match quality catcher, 2,800, 2,500. A little bit of pop in the bat. 2 home runs on the board, a 51.9% hard hit rate. I do think you could go there. He's low strikeout, so you're getting good quality bat on ball for that cheap a price on DraftKings. He's less of a FanDuel option because you're just going to be plugging Vladdy in at first, so you don't really want to bottle up your util spot on FanDuel. But on DraftKings, that's not a bad catcher price. It's not a bad fifth man. That brings us down to 4,000 apiece for a stack that includes Bichette, Guerrero, Santander, Springer. That ain't bad. Addison Barger, Ernie Clement, Miles Straw, and Andres Jimenez. Mix and match pieces all down the board. Look how low Andres Jimenez has gotten at 165, 258, 284, a 60 WRC plus. Remember the 3 homers when they were standing out looking nice? 8 stolen bases. That's about all he's got. At least Straw hits for average. He is a light hitting average and maybe steal you a bag and maybe provide correlated scoring guy. I would take him and put him in the outfield, I think, ahead of putting Andres Jimenez for a much higher price at second base. But really, we are, against the lefty, we are kind of back to the shorter version of this lineup, but that top 5 is pretty appealing. Guardians against Chris Bassett. Bassett at 93,900 projects out just fine, pitching to a very solid 27.1% strikeout rate while inducing an 11.2% whiff rate, 2.62 ERA with a very quality 296 xFIP underneath it. He's not walking anybody, hasn't really gotten in trouble for any power or anything like that. Was excellent for power last season, so that's demonstrably real. The strikeouts are up by 5 and change points. The walks are down by half. That's a bit of a surprise. Swinging strike rate way up. Stuff plus up a few points, but not enough to necessarily explain that. Whip is down, obviously, with the major drop in walk rate. If we look year over year from the year before, it's the same thing as he was last year. 23 and 24 look very similar. Excellent at pitching deep into games that year. A little bit lighter, 2 fewer starts, but a little bit lighter in terms of the average depth of start in 24 than he was in 23. Slightly better for swinging strikes, better CSW, a little bit higher on the home run rate, but non-tragic, 4.21 xFIP. I got to admit, I haven't looked too deep into. I just want to see the StatCast board. What's going on? Why is Chris Bassett this much better all of a sudden? Center cutter curve, sweeper, fewer sweepers. No, not really. His cutter's actually been hit harder than in the expected number. Velo is actually down. Mile and 2/3 on the sinker. Almost 2 full miles an hour on the cutter. Spin is like exactly the same. Whiff on the cutter is down. And the curve. Getting a lot more whiffs on the curveball this year. 29.2% whiff rate up to 34.9 so far. Putting hitters away with the sweeper more. 29.6 versus 20% last year, 45.8% whiff rate, 44% this year. He's throwing it slightly less relative to the other pitches. And it looks like he's thrown more splitters this year at a 27% whiff rate. But that pitch has also gotten hit very hard. There's no real notable change outside of just picking up maybe some small sample added with and results. I can't really spot anything. The fact that the velo is actually down could be a concern. Facing a very low strikeout Guardians lineup, I don't love Bassett at the price, but I think you could get away with it. This Guardians team outperforming my expectations. Are at 19.6% this year. I was expecting more in the low mid 20s. We'll see where it ends up. It's not that far off the mark, but so far they've been decent in terms of the Ks, and that's with Jhonkensy Noel in there, 29%. He is down from 31.8 in a small sample from last year. But some appreciably low strikeout bats in this lineup, of course, like Steven Kwan, like Jose Ramirez. A star hit tool guy with a little bit of pop in his bat over the last couple of seasons. Excellent on-base and correlated scoring option in Kwan for 48.32 is always a good buy from this lineup. If you're stacking Guardians, you don't skip Steven Kwan that often. He is a key piece in the engine. Gabriel Arias is interesting in the 2 spot. I like him at second base better than at third or short, but I like the price quite a bit, 38.27. 4 home runs on the board against a pitcher who you can get for power. Bassett 237 and 139 the last year and this year so far, but 3.39% home runs the year before, moderate fly ball trajectory, and some barrels allowed. So it's not impossible to homer off of them. 4.57 in the home run model. Again, we're looking for power there. Jose Ramirez at 54.36 is kind of cheap. 261, 312, 441, carrying 337 xWOBA, 5 home runs, 7 steals. It's a superstar talent at a few bucks off. Kyle Manzardo, 46, 3,000, 8 home runs on the board. Decent option, 342 xWOBA, 16.2% barrels and 42.6% hard hits. A lot of premium contact. Definitely strikes out quite a bit, but also draws his walks. Carlos Santana for 38.25 has been pretty unproductive. 219, 300, 295, 27% below average, below average, 27% below average for run creation so far. But he's low strikeout. He's high walk. I would expect some of his positive attributes to kind of present themselves at some point. There is still pop in that bat. If you need to get cheaper than Manzardo, you can go there, but I prefer Manzardo on both sides. Bo Naylor, 26-25, a playable catcher, but also not. 4 home runs on the board, otherwise very mediocre, 188, 278, 391. 321 xWOB is at least encouraging that he should become more consistent. 11.1% barrel shows you where the power comes from. At 26, like I said, you can throw darts at it. Ana Martinez, 3,500, 2,500, decent bat on ball skills, low strikeout, low walk, so you're just buying frequency of contact, balls in play, and correlated scoring. I like Jhonkensy Noel for his power upside. 14.5% barrels, 36.8% hard hits last season. He hit 13 home runs in 198 plate appearances. He's got pop. Brian Rocchio's here for defense. Blue Jays bats. Outside of the price, Chris Bassett, but I don't love him at that price. And then Guardians bats. Those two things are essentially tied. But the Guardians being below a 4-run total, I got to at least put the pitcher on top of them. The big, crazy super volcano of power lurking just below the surface of this slate. Let's talk. Thank you, Tango. That's a good note. Santander bat speed down 3 miles an hour while hitting righty. Definitely a worthwhile note. I mean, he's been scuffling along just, full stop, but something to watch. No immediate way to quantify what that's going to mean in the long term or for tonight specifically, but definitely something to keep an eye on. So the Athletics at large, a 5+ implied total from Vegas supports everything I'm about to say about that middle stretch of power. It's very real. They're going up against Valente Belloso. So far this season, in 2 major league appearances, both starts, 4 1/3 and 3 2/3, Belloso has not allowed a home run. In 4 appearances in AAA, 2 1/3, 6 innings, 5 innings, 4 innings, 19 1/3 innings in AAA. Also, 5 appearances, 4 starts. Also has not allowed a home run. If that concerns you at all against these Athletics, don't play them and miss out on the opportunity. This is a ridiculous power upside spot. In 2023, across high A and double A, going by home runs per 9, which is a flawed way to do it, but whatever, that's what we've got. 1.88 home runs per 9 as a 23-year-old pitching in high A and double A. 16.7% home run to fly ball ratio. Last year, in 66 minor league innings, 13 starts at double A and triple A, pitching as a 24-year-old. 1.36 home runs per 9. 13.2% home run to fly ball ratio. Last year in the show, because he did pitch in the show last year, 5.08% home run rate that came on an 11% barrel rate allowed, a noteworthy 22.2 degree average launch angle, 42.1% hard hits, 90 miles an hour of exit velo. This is everything we're looking for when we're talking about a home run opportunity. Stuff Plus hates this guy. 3.67 ERA, but a 5.47 xFIP, a 15% strikeout rate, not even. 8.2% swinging, 24.7% CSW. Even if he wanted to strike out guys like Brent Rooker, he couldn't. So far this year, 17.1% strikeout rate. All right, he's found a few more Ks, but from where? 6.8% swinging strikes, 24.5% CSW. Was he facing blindfolded hitters those 8 innings? He is not allowed a home run. Okay, fine. We'll accept that. 16% barrels allowed in that small sample. 31 degree average launch angle. Guys are wrecking the ball straight up in the air. The hard hits are down. The average exit velo has been down. Stuff Plus technically up, but still 15 points below average. 2.25 ERA, completely betrayed and normalized by that 5.51 xFIP. Attack this pitcher with A's bats. Jacob Wilson, excellent hit tool. I would expect him to be on base multiple times today. 331, 347, 458, setting the table for a stretch of 5 now hitters above the magic number. Tyler Soderstrom, Brent Rooker, Shea Langoliers, JJ Bleday creeping over the magic number 10.01 in the home run model, and Seth Brown at 11.59. Lest we forget, the hot rookie, Nick Kurtz, down lineup, 3,300, 2,200, hunting for his first barrel, hunting for his first home run, 11.96 in today's home run model. I came so close to making him the home run pick of the day. Kind of wish I had, because he's not going to be popular, and he's very cheap, and he's very good. I know he hasn't found it in the show yet. I recognize that. I'm not at all worried, because this is not a top-end major league pitcher that he's going to be facing today. This is a guy who couldn't even get through high A when he was 23. Major power upside that is very, very real. It was brought up in the Discord, hey, are those numbers right? And I said, yeah. And if you look, it's not like we've got 2 guys running off into the 20s and something that I would be like, ooh, that's weird. It's just a bunch of guys with believable, their upside numbers. 17.81, we've seen Rooker higher than that. Soderstrom, I've got faith in that number. Everybody else is just barely over the line for power upside. And they just come together to a ridiculously high average. Even Luis Urias, he can hit a home run. He's got 4 already this season. He's carrying a 350 xWOB and a 231 ISO so far. We've looked at this a few times already. Got to go all the way back to 22, but he hit 16 home runs in 472 plate appearances all the way back in 2022. Hasn't seen a ton of plate appearances since. At 2,800, at 2,300, at second base against this pitcher, if you're going wild with A stacks, don't leave him out. This is going to be how you guys know I'm serious about this. I would play Gio Urshela in A stacks against this pitcher. And you guys know that I don't think Gio Urshela is a hitter. And I'm probably lying. As I'm thinking about it, I really don't want to. But he's playable. And he belongs in some of your A stacks. If you build 20 A stacks tonight, Gio Urshela should be in at least 3 of them. 1 through 8, though, looking pretty spectacular. Now, we're not getting home runs from everybody. We'll probably get some strikeouts. We'll probably get some guys left on base. The team doesn't really hit for average. They're only an adequate sequencing team. You've got 4 guys in that group of 5 of top-end guys that are at a average 135 WRC plus so far this season. We've got a very established star caliber power bat right there in Brent Rooker for not that much at 51.36. The price on Soderstrom still up at 37 on FanDuel. DraftKings already coming back down the hill, though. If you haven't noticed, Tyler Soderstrom hasn't actually homered since April 17th. That was exactly 2 weeks from yesterday. But he's still been productive. We're still at a 157 WRC plus, a 391 XWOB, but 9 home runs on the board. Happy to pay 47, and they cleaned up the positional conflict. We've given him outfield eligibility, so you can get him and Kurtz in the lineup if you want to. Love the lefty power upside. Seth Brown has always just been great for premium contact. He strikes out a fair amount of the time. He doesn't usually give you this double-digit walk rate that he's pulled down in 35 plate appearances. Usually you're at just, half that if you're lucky. But the barrels and the hard hits have always been real for Seth Brown. Over the 35 plate appearances, just 1 home run has been bad outside of that 344 XWOB that stands out. Last year in 400, he hit 14 homers, had a 148 ISO. That was a bit of a disappointment. Year before, 378 plate appearances, another 14 homers, a 184 ISO. 25 home runs in 555 back in 2022 with a 214 ISO. I know we have to scroll far to the right to get to that, but let's remember that's not that technically far removed baseball-wise. He's just missed some time over it. He's been inconsistent as far as being in the lineup the last couple of seasons. Very solid 1 through 8 at least. And then there's Gio Urshela. The Marlins are drawing a 4.51 implied total. We have to talk Gunnar Hoglund. I assume it's Hoglund. I'm gonna say Hoglund. It might be pronounced Holland. Not sure. Probably boils down to whether or not his family was pig farmers once upon a time. Kid's got talent. So far in AAA this season, a 26.1% strikeout rate against a 6.1% walk rate over 6 outings, 6 starts, 29 and 2/3 innings. Pitching to a 2.43 ERA, but a 3.99 xFIP. That's as a 25-year-old. Nothing wrong with that. Last season, as a 24-year-old, mostly at AA. 5 starts in AAA, the rest at AA. 23 total starts, 24 outings, 130 and 2/3 innings. Pitched to a 22.7 strikeout rate, a 7% walk rate, a 3.44 ERA with a 4.33 xFIP. There's enough talent here to beat the Marlins over 5 innings. Does he get 6? I would be skeptical. If everything's going great, could he come out for a 6 though? Sure. Went 5 in his last outing in the minors, faced 20 hitters, shut him out, 3 hits, 5 Ks. A shorter 4-inning outing, faced only 13 hitters. He was 1 hitting them. Not sure what happened there. 5 strikeouts, 2 walks. 5 innings, 5 and 2/3, 6 innings, going back in time a little bit. So fully stretched out. 5 is on the board here. He costs $4,000 on DraftKings. That just makes things work. Usually we're talking about, do you really want to wrestle with like an opener, a guy going an inning, 2 innings at that price? This should be a full 5-inning start. This is the thing that concerns me. 4.51 implied total for the Marlins. There's no Jesus Sanchez in the lineup, who's pretty much their top hitter in my opinion. Agustin Ramirez is making a bid for that title right now over his 33 plate appearances. Out of the gate, fantastic in his major league career, and he is supposed to be basically this good. 290, 333, 710. All right, some of that is a little high, but he's supposed to be good. 3 home runs, a stolen base, creating runs 79% better than average, 15.4% barrels. Kyle Stowers has had a good 111 plate appearances for this team. 323, 396, 510, 385 xWOBA, suggesting that it's pretty real. 4 home runs. We've seen Kyle Stowers hit for power a little bit. This is the most consistent we've seen him. Still strikes out at a 27.9% clip, but that's down from 35.4 in the small sample, 36.4 the year before. Walks up at 10.8%. It's been productive. Eric Wagaman, 35.27, 3 home runs on the board. He's been okay. Matt Mervis has hit 7 home runs. He's otherwise pretty atrocious. 271 xWOBA. It's probably all going to go away in a hurry. But he's barreled a few balls, and when he does, he can definitely drive the ball pretty efficiently. Connor Norby hasn't shown us much, but also hasn't been terrible. 2 points below league average by WRC+. 4 points below league average by WRC+ for Liam Hicks a few spots later. Cheap catcher with not much upside. Otto Lopez, Dane Myers, just mix and match type guys. But the point was, I skipped over Xavier Edwards too, their best player. The point was, that stretch of hitters is at least reasonable to believe could succeed against a rookie making his debut here. It gives a little support to the 4.5 total. And then Xavier Edwards, as mentioned, skipped over him by accident. We're at 264, 331, 304. This is a hitter that we expect to flirt with 300. Last year in 303 plate appearances, 328, 397, 423. Hit tool and on base and speed specialist. Needs a lot of help from his friends. He's gotten it a little bit this year, but he's still only at a 78 WRC plus. It's like a mix and match guy when it comes to shortstop because there's so many good options at that position. This is the daunting thing. Like I said, just that Vegas has us with a little bit of skepticism there. But I think that price is good enough that even if he gives up a couple of runs, it's really about just did he get through your 5 innings? Because if he's gotten through 5, he's probably not given up 8 runs. And you've probably gotten enough fantasy points for that 4,000. Very much in play over here. On FanDuel, you're just, as I said at the top of the show, just kind of wrestling with the fact that we've got several A+ ace options on the board that are likely to put up big scores. So just don't know what the ceiling looks like unless he gets to that quality start. And even then, makes it tough, but that does pay a lot of bills on FanDuel. Would not play Belloso. Athletics bats are your absolute priority here in this game. A's bats with a bullet, followed by Gunnar Hoglund at 4,000 on DK. Loosely playable on FanDuel. And you could throw some Marlins bats back the other way. If you roster a lot of Gunnar Hoglund, then you definitely should grab a few hedge stacks of Marlins. Doesn't have to be a 1-for-1 kind of ratio, even a 3-2, but for every couple, I would throw one into another lineup. Synthetica's here. What's going on? Yo, afternoon. Tango says, I'm playing Gio Urshela and I had to take a shower after I clicked. Yeah, that's the kind of hitter he is. Let's see if we got that Red Sox lineup. Looks like we do. Sox are interesting. They're coming up a little bit, just given the power that's available against Joe Ryan. But as stated, he's difficult to define because he's one of our more gettable aces, but I do think he's got like ace level quality. 3.73% home run rate this season on 14% barrels, 22.4 degree average launch, 45.3% hard hits, 92.6 miles an hour of exit velo. That's kind of what's feeding the beast for some Red Sox power. Last year, those numbers were lower in terms of the barrels, the hard hits, the exit velo. The home run rate was right about the same. Stuff plus was a little bit lower than in this year's 103.5. His swinging strikes, his CSW were very similar. Came away with a 27.3% strikeout rate and a 4.3% walk rate. That's what I'm talking about when I say he's ace caliber. That strikeout to walk is dynamite. This year's strikeout to walk is even better. 29-1 against a 3% walk rate. Spectacular in those regards. Spectacular keeping guys off base. Just loses the occasional home run. So I don't really think it's a day for Red Sox bats, despite that 4.54 implied total telling us that it is. I think they're playable. If you build 150 lineups, I definitely think you include some, but I don't think they're the priority that they might otherwise look like at a 4.5 run total against this pitcher. You're very likely playing with like a 4 or 5 run day, like that total would suggest, but a day where they hit that total, not a ceiling score. And we're hunting ceiling scores here. The Twins against Brian Bello, I have more faith in. I like them at that 4.5 run total, and I would make them more of a priority. I don't know that they're going to be as popular as they ought to be. Bello last season in 162 and a third, 4.49 ERA with a 3.87 xFIP, 21.8% strikeout rate, 9.1% walk rate. Year before that, 19.8% strikeouts with a 6.7% walk, 4.24 ERA with a 4.0 xFIP. He's very much a replacement level average pitcher. He can have days where he's perfectly fine, but he can have days where he absolutely struggles against good bats, days where he gives up power, days where he gives up too much contact. That's been the nature of his first 2 starts this season, striking out just 14.6 and walking 12.5 in that tiny sample. What that actually looks like is 6 innings the other day against Cleveland at the game I was at, 3 earned runs, it came on 6 hits. He allowed a home run, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks. That home run came later on. He was tiring, and he gave that up. He was good before that. But the results speak for themselves. 5 innings, faced 22 Mariners, 4 hits, 1 earned run that also came on a homer, struck out 3, walked 3. That's who this pitcher is. There are some strikeouts here in the Twins lineup, but there's also some low strikeout options. There's plenty of upside for power. Byron Buxton at 8.76. I wouldn't have been shocked to see Buxton above the magic number. I think he's lurking for power. 16% barrels, 53.3% hard hits. 6 home runs on the board this season, a 228 ISO. Brooks Lee is barreling the ball and hitting it very, very hard. His most notable attributes are keeping strikeouts down, 8.9%, down from 14.6% last year, which was already spectacular. He's almost doubled his walk rate in the small sample. We'll see what it looks like when he's got more than 56 plate appearances, but he's off to a good start in those departments. And if he continues to barrel the ball and hit it hard, he's already hit 2 home runs this year. That would be a big unexpected uptick in his talent. Carlos Correa, bad so far this season. I've shown you guys too many times to scroll over to the right and waste time on it today, but a fantastic half season last year. Still hits the ball very hard, still belongs in your twin stacks. 34.27 is just cheap for his talent. Ty France, 32.28, off to a great start, over 128. Good slash line, 125 WRC plus. Probably most importantly, the 13.3%, barrels 45.9% hard hits. The fact that we've got 3 home runs out of him already and a 399 xWOBA to support this production. Really like what we're seeing from Ty France, who I was already willing to write off at the end of last year and going into this year. Edward Julian, always in play. You're just looking for hard hits. He's never been consistent. He's probably never going to be consistent, but he can put barrel on ball, and that's all we really care about sometimes. 2 home runs on the board, a 340 xWOBA, 11.5% barrel rate. Ryan Jeffers, cheap catcher that hits the ball very hard, 6.17 in the home run model. Just 1 on the board so far this year, but a 359 xWOBA and 8.1% barrel, 46.8% hard hit. Definitely could play some Ryan Jeffers if I'm going to this team. And then you get Mickey Gasper and Harrison Bader as mix and match options down lineup. If we're taking Red Sox shots against Joe Ryan, I think we prioritize the 2 lefties up at the top at any price. 55.48 is not a bad 2-man average of 51.50 a piece, considering who those 2 lefties are. Devers still a little bit too cheap on DraftKings, or a lot bit too cheap, actually. 35.34 more appropriately priced on FanDuel. 5 home runs on the board from Raffy. He's carrying a 411 xWOBA underneath the scuffling in the front end of the triple slash. It's really just about this batting average that makes it look like he's not been good. 358 on base, light in the slug department as well. Some of the results have been off the mark a little bit. But a 411 xWOBA, still creating runs 20% better than average, still barreling 22.6% of his batted ball events, 61.9% of his batted ball events are hard hits. It's still Raffy Devers, 11.42 in the home run model against a guy who struggles with the occasional home run, with the occasional bit of power. Alex Bregman has been murdering the ball. 326, 397, 581, 370 xWOBA, 7 home runs, 11.8% barrels. Willie Abreu has a 15.3% barrel rate, another priority lefty. Strikes out at just a 22.7% clip so far this year, down from 28% in the small sample. He's doubled the walk rate in the small sample. Probably doesn't continue with that, but at least some version of that, those improvements could linger. 283, 403, 525. A 400 xWOBA of 56% better than average, marked by WRC plus. Trevor Story, miraculously priced under 5,000 on DraftKings at 4,600. Bit of a discount. I'm surprised they haven't been overreactive with his production. 5 home runs, 6 stolen bases, 321 xWOBA. He is 5 points below average for run creation. The consistency hasn't been great. Still strikes out a lot, doesn't walk enough. But I'll take my barrels. I'll take the fact that he's running. I'll take my home runs, and I'll go with it at shortstop if I'm going to this team. Tristan Casas is too cheap for his talent. He's also dramatically underperformed his talent so far. 9.9% barrels, 45.1% hard hits is kind of what we're clinging to in his batted ball events there. He's just cheap power at first, 9.06. Number 2 in the home run model today against Joe Ryan. Definitely would prioritize that bat if I'm going Red Sox. Connor Wong, David Hamilton, and Sedan Rafaela mix and match guys down lineup. No Christian Campbell today. He's dealing with some rib issues. 1, 2. I'm not going to do the song. I promise. But 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. Story Casas to help us get cheap. And then I'll grab Willier, the cheaper of the 2. $4,660, so call it $4,700 a man. And there's not a guy in that stack that you couldn't justify paying $47 for. Even going like he is Tristan Casas, that's fine. It's $100 more than they're asking for Trevor Story, and then we're averaging down Willie Abreu Rafi Devers and Jarren Duran. I like that as a 5-man. If you went with Bregman over Abreu or Bregman over anybody, that is absolutely a not only appropriate decision, but a good decision. It's just he costs a little bit more and screws up that average a little bit. But it's not as unaffordable as it might look to get to the Red Sox bats. Less so on FanDuel because you only get 4 guys to work with, so you can't really average down as effectively. Twins bats, Joe Ryan, Red Sox bats, all basically tied up top. Like I said when we were first talking about this game early in the show, that's basically 3 out of 4 corners of this game. I'm much less interested in Brian Bayo, even at these prices. Just realizing that it's 4:40, and I am going to have to dramatically pick up the pace. Yeah. All right, Yoshi Yamamoto. Plenty of strikeouts available in this Braves lineup. They're averaging to a 20.3% so far this year. The same lineup was a 22% last year. There is a little bit of benefit down lineup from Ozzie Albies, Michael Harris, who are believably at low strikeout rates. Matty Olson probably not going to maintain a 17.6 for the full season. Alex Verdugo probably not going to maintain a 6.3 for the full season. There are Ks here, and Yamamoto's finding him at a 32.6% rate so far this season, pitching to a 106 ERA and a 2.20 xFIP. He has been spectacular. Every bit the pitcher that they paid for. 13% swinging strike rate, 30.7% CSW. If you can afford them, fire away. The Braves at a sub-4 total. Vegas letting that get up to 4-ish runs. At least there's a little respect for the Braves lineup, the Braves power upside. They haven't been terrible. They haven't been great this year. Everybody just waiting on Ronnie Acuna to get back for this team to go on a surge. But you can see what Yamamoto is doing to those power numbers. He keeps the ball down, 3.2 degree average launch. Nobody above a 7 in the home run model, and that's just the 3 superstar home run hitters, Austin Riley, Ozuna, and Olson, all in the 6s. Everybody else below 5. Not typical power displaying for the Braves. Throwing Dodgers bats at Grant Holmes. Very doable. 4.50 ERA with a 4.68 xFIP, striking out 22.2, but walking 14.5 over his 5 starts. It's been problematic, giving up alarming levels of hard hit, exit velo, and barrels, resulting in a 4+% hard hit home run rate. It's been problematic. Above the magic number for Shohei Ohtani, would easily have believed any one of those few guys above the magic number for home run upside today. Holmes last year in 64 1/3, 6 starts, a lot of relief work, was much better for home runs. That's where some of that is. That's why we're not showing full blaze power upside for the Dodgers. Model's got a long memory. He was better last year in that role. Dodgers bats at a 5+ implied total, fire away. Not as powerful an average down, I don't think, for them as is available maybe for the Braves. Although, actually, no, I'm wrong because Max Muncy and Will Smith are here and surging Andy Pajes. So, yeah, these guys are just as easy to average down. 1, 2. We'll skip Freddie. Let's take Teoscar and just those 2. And it's already 49. It's not cheap, but it's cheaper. If you didn't take a third $5,000 player, and let's say you just went with Pajes, now I'm getting Shohei and Mookie for $45.60 a piece. I don't really have a problem paying that price for Max Muncy and Will Smith. Andy Pajes, man, has been good so far this year. If you haven't noticed, he's been on a tear. 292, 370, 521 now. 229 ISO, 6 home runs, 3 steals, 50% better than average for run creation over 108 plate appearances. You know who hasn't noticed is FanDuel and DraftKings. 3,500, 2,900. Typically, those prices go up quicker than that. Max scuffling. He does have his first home run on the board finally. 194, 309, 301. The on base, the slug are the concerning numbers there. Just a 108 ISO. 333 xWOBA supports the upside should arrive. So do the 11.9% barrels, the 45.8% hard hits. So does the walk rate. Striking out a bit more than his already high strikeout rates, but typically we're getting him more in the 26 range against an aggressively good walk rate. Still working out the kinks, working out the timing. We'll see if he gets back. I know he's like 36 now. But at these prices, I'm still a believer. 6.16 in the home run model, not nothing. Obvious between those two guys. Love the triple position eligibility on Mookie for under 4,000 on FanDuel. He's got 4 home runs, a 112 WRC plus. Pretty weak in the XWOB and ISO department so far, but it's Mookie Betts. I think we just give him the time to work it out. Ohtani hitting like a superstar. We'll see if and when he takes the mound. If it were me, I would just never let him pitch again. Freddie Freeman at 59.37, 319, 407, 638 after 81 plate appearances. Looking a lot like Freddie Freeman. 467 xWOBA to drive that point home. 14% barrels. Superstar, 5,900, 3,700. He's a little bit cheap over here. Teoscar for 54 and more importantly for 35 on FanDuel. Very affordable. 7.11 in the home run model. 9 on the season. He's also slashing 310, 325, 621 with a 385 xWOBA, creating runs 59% better than average. Will Smith, one of the top hitting catchers in the sport, 316, 426, 500, 382 xWOBA, creating runs 60% better than average. It's just the Dodgers. They're all superstars. You just play them. Miguel Rojas, all right, he's not a superstar, but he is at 273, 289, 318, 71 WRC plus isn't very good. Michael Conforto's been a disaster so far, but he's very cheap, and we know there's a bat lurking there with some lefty power. Last year, 11.8% barrels, 45.8% hard hits. Throwing him against a righty who's been so far this year vulnerable to power. Cheap lefty bat late in the lineup is kind of interesting. Dodgers play 1 through 9 today. If you're going Braves, I don't like Alex Verdugo at all, but he's been effective in 48 plate appearances in the leadoff role. Just take him for correlated scoring for cheap if you're gonna, and focus on these hitters. That group right there is who you really want, but it's one of the worst spots of the day going up against Yamamoto. You're taking a real weird, wild contrarian swing here. You're at least getting them a little bit inexpensive. Austin Riley at 52 is pretty nice. 6 home runs on the board for him. A 184 ISO 118 WRC plus, suggestive of more power to come in the barrels and hard hits department. The xWOBA. Ozuna just continues chugging along. 283, 437, 478, a 159 WRC plus. Matty Olson struggling in terms of the slash line, but the on base is fine. The 411 xWOBA gives you a nice warm feeling when you put him in your lineup. He's got a 16.7% barrel, 57.1% hard hits. He's blasted 4 home runs. That's not quite where we would expect him to be at this point, but we know the upside is coming. He's also only striking out at a 17.6 and walking at a 17.6% rate. So he's doing weird, interesting things out there to be productive. I think you just continue including him. Sean Murphy has been on fire over 70 plate appearances since rejoining the lineup. 7 home runs, a 364 xWOBA, a 383 ISO, 18.9% barrels. Strikes out a ton, draws his walks though. Masher at catcher for 4,600 where you need it, 31 where you don't need it. I would absolutely include Sean Murphy if I'm going Braves. Ozzy Albies struggling so far this year. We know Ozzy's better than this. I fully expect him to get back, even without some support from really any of these numbers over 132 plate appearances. Michael Harris has also been bad. Really not much support for saying that I also expect him to get back to where he's just too talented, too good to struggle like this for much longer. Eli White and Nick Allen are replacement level mix and match pieces at the bottom. This goes Dodgers bats, Yoshi Yamamoto, Braves bats. Few darts of Grant Holmes at 72 on DraftKings. If you really need it, sure, but it's really, really bad. Low strikeout, high end, ridiculous offense on the other side. Astros, White Sox. One of these things is not like the other on the mound. We are firing away with Astros bats against Jonathan Cannon, and we are very interested in their starting pitcher Framber Valdez against the White Sox lineup. As mentioned at the beginning of the show, the White Sox did get Chase Meadroth back up at the top. Kid has ludicrous patience at the plate, could drive Framber insane, could scratch out a few base hits, but other than that, that's all he is. So we might see Chase Meadroth get on base 3 times, and if Lou Bob does nothing behind him, that doesn't really count for much, and this team will have done nothing. Lou Bob, 183, 295, 327. At least he's stolen 13 bases to give us some fantasy scoring. He's hit 4 home runs, an encouraging 320 xWOBA, a very encouraging 13% barrel rate, discouraging 30% strikeouts, but he's doubled the walk rate year over year to 13.7% in a small sample. He's all over the map. He needs to get off this team and get to a better team where his skills will come through, but he's their best player, and it's not even close. 4,400, 3,200, you include him in basically every White Sox stack. Miguel Vargas, 28, 25, no. Edgar Quero, mix and match catcher maybe at 33. 2,400 on FanDuel. If I'm going to this team, I would include him, but now I'm going catcher, first base, and util because I want Andrew Vaughn in there. It's ugly. It's a bad lineup. They're going up against one of the top pitchers in terms of suppressing power, a guy who can find a better strikeout rate than 20.9% that he's put up so far this year. Last year it was 24%, the year before 24.8, higher numbers in the past. Keeps the ball down at ludicrously low average launch angles, does not really allow much in terms of home run upside. Excellent stuff as measured by Stuff Plus. 4.0 ERA, but a 3.68 xFIP in his early season. 10.6% swinging is down a little bit. CSW is down a little bit. That's what I mean as far as the strike throwing. If he's just missing the zone or not getting Chase Meadroth to chase, that's why I think that kid could be on base a few times today. But otherwise, you got some free swinging dudes in this lineup that Frommer's going to find some Ks against, and he's very likely to complete this to keep this power completely in check. Only Lubob above even a third of the way to the magic number. Astros bats prioritize against Jonathan Cannon, who comes in with a 19% strikeout rate, a 12% walk rate, a 4.50 ERA, but a 5.03 xFIP. Too many home runs, too much premium contact allowed. This is a very gettable pitcher. I'm honestly surprised the Astros are not above a 5, but good enough for government work at 4.93. Jeremy Pena, I don't love, but he's slashing 282, 355, 436, 363 xWOB. He's putting good bat on ball with the increased barrel rate and hard hit rate. If he's able to sustain that in a larger sample, I do think he's good. We just haven't seen him do that. Last year, 5.4% barrels, 38.8% hard hits. I expect we gradually revert to that, but maybe we get there this year. He's interesting in the leadoff spot, 3,000 on FanDuel, 3,900 on DraftKings. It's cheap enough to make him a playable option at shortstop in that spot in the lineup. 48.31 for Jose Altuve, 4 home runs, 3 steals, moderate production, 108 WRC+. It's been all right. He's not been the star caliber Jose Altuve, but we'll see how it continues along. It's something to monitor. That 274 xWOBA, not ideal, having the 274 xWOBA matching the 274 batting average. Jordan Alvarez is cheap for being Jordan Alvarez at 5,000 on DraftKings, at 3,200 on FanDuel. He's got a 13.07 in the home run model today. I almost made him the home run pick of the day, but then I figured he'd just be ludicrously popular, and I don't love doing that. 3 on the board this season, a 371 xWOBA to tell us everything's going to be fine, doesn't strike out, draws a ton of walks, tons and tons and tons of power. One of the best bats in baseball. Just play Alvarez when you go to this team. Paredes, we're going to have to pull up the board real quick here. This park would have been okay for his power last year. It's basically average. He's got 4 home runs on the board, all of which have come in Houston. In every other park in baseball, his expected home runs is either 0, 2, or 1. In this park, it's 2. That's this year. That's except for Wrigley, where it's 3. Last year, this would have been 21 against the 26 he would have pulled in Houston. So this is a playable spot for Paredes, especially going up against a pitcher like this. 4,000, 3,000. I think there's enough bat on ball quality there. There's enough patience at the plate there, on base and correlated scoring upside that you can definitely get involved with some Isaac Paredes today. Christian Walker at 37.28 has gotten just way too cheap. 12.7% barrels and 47.9% hard hits is telling me that everything will be fine. We're just striking out a little bit too much. We're not drawing the usual walk rate. 196, 277, 355. It does look ugly. 4 home runs on the board, just a 302 xWOBA, just a 159 ISO. I get it. There's a lot of concern in that line. I need to see another 100 plate appearances or so of him being at this level before I'm even willing to consider writing him off. He's just cheap now. Jainer Diaz, 3,000, 2,600, kind of the same thing. This kid is way off the mark from the production that we expected. I was talking about him flirting with 300 over a full season as a catcher. He's at 185, 211, 304, a 281 xWOBA. Either something is dramatically wrong with the person or the body, or he's got his mind wiped and forgot how to hit. I don't really know what's going on. I expect we're going to be fine. And then another 150 plate appearances from now, we're going to be talking about, hey, remember when he was at 185, 211, 304? For now, he's a cheap catcher at 3,000 going up against Jonathan Cannon. I think he's a one-off. I think he's definitely stackable. One-off on DraftKings, less so on FanDuel. But at that price as a one-off at catcher on DraftKings, you can easily use that. And he's a priority bat in stacks. Brendan Rodgers, Cam Smith, Jake Myers, all playable down lineup. Nobody's a priority bat. But any one of those guys in a few shares, perfectly fine. Just to round things out at the bottom of the White Sox, by the way, Bobby Dahlbeck is lurking down there, as is Michael Taylor, to friends of the show. 1 home run on the board from Michael A. No home runs so far from Dahlbeck over his 18 plate appearances. Continue to love Bobby Dahlbeck in terms of what he's done in the minors. He might be just Crash Davis. That's basically all he is. He's never really found it outside of a 20 home run year with the Red Sox a few years back. But I get it. If you're skeptical, it's also just not a team I'm going to. If we were going up against a lot of other pitchers, maybe I'd be loosely advocating for a cheap Bobby Dahlbeck share or two, but not against Fromber. Very much Astros bats and Fromber Valdez tied at the top, and nothing from the White Sox for me. Thank you. Synth, no sweat. Synthetica says, thanks for talking me off Sandy the other day. Good stuff. Mariners and Rangers lineups are both in. Jack Leiter, Brian Wu. So Leiter, as mentioned, missed some time and then came back for kind of a short start in his most recent one. I don't question the talent, but I question the depth. I don't even really question the matchup, although they were flashing some interesting numbers about the Mariners offense over the last 82 games the other day. Ooh, Rylan Thomas in the lineup, huh? This Blaine Crim guy is in the model, but he's not available on either site so far as I know. And Rylan Thomas is left-handed. You're going to have to buy a few more rows here again. Why is this show 2 hours long? Because Terry takes time to add rows to his spreadsheet for no good reason for 5 seconds in the middle of it. And then he takes another 10 seconds to talk about that. All right. Rylan Thomas is available on both sites. Dead min price at the bottom of the board. So that means we'll pull him up. All right. So I don't think there's enough depth for Leiter even at 7,300, 8,200. Definitely not on FanDuel. A few darts here if you have faith in 5+ innings. Sure. Because he does have good strikeout stuff. It's been effective so far this year. He's pitched to a 2.03 ERA and a 3.39 xFIP in his 13 1/3, three starts. 25% Ks, though. Keeping whip below 1, 11% swinging strike rate. It's the kind of thing I would normally talk about throwing at this Mariners team as far as all the Ks that are available there. Their offense has been productive, though. They have hit for some power. In that 82 games since the end of last year, it was like August of last year or something like that. They were like second in the league in home runs. They didn't show the strikeout number. I suspect it was very, very high. But their run creation marks, their home run upside was very good over that stretch. So they're a dangerous team, but they're a free swinging bunch, which is why we do attack them with pitchers. I just don't think Leiter's got enough on the bone today. Wu at 84.96, though. 32 innings over 5 starts, pitching to a 3.09 ERA, 3.73 xFIP, a little bit higher there. But what I love about this pitcher and most Mariners pitchers, those strikeout to walk ratios. 23.6 against 5.5 so far this year. Last year, it was 21.4 against a 2.8% walk rate. He had a 0.90 whip over 22 starts, pitched to a 2.89 ERA, but a 3.75 xFIP. So this and that, very similar. That and that, very similar. Stuff plus, right in line with where it was. Home runs, almost exactly the same. This is just a continuation of his 22 starts from last year. He's been very good. This Rangers lineup, this version of it, that's a 22.1% strikeout rate. Definitely gettable. Got some guys who are really scuffling. Got some guys who are scuffling like Adolis Garcia here, despite putting excellent bat on ball when he makes contact. That could become problematic in a hurry. Jock Peterson, not really making quality contact, even when he makes contact, which has been very infrequently so far this year. 108, 205, 176. But the Rangers are showing you what you do with a player like that. You just stick them in your 3 spot in your lineup and have faith that everything we've seen over the last, what's he been in the league, 10 years? 11 years. You have faith that all of that is going to come back. And you have to have faith because there's absolutely nothing in this year's numbers to support that notion. Josh Smith, mix and match type guy. He's already on the decline. It was a brief moment in the sun for Josh Smith, as we usually see, and then he'll end up in the 260, low 300s on base. He's okay. He's always playable, especially when he's hitting up top of the lineup. Multi-position guy, but just temper expectations. Wyatt Langford at 5,000, 3,600, 6 homers, 4 steals, the star on this team right now. The one guy basically holding them up. Marcus Semien has been bad. Sub Mendoza, 273 on base, 250 slug, a 320 xWOBA is at least somewhat encouraging for coming back to around the average. The 9% barrels is somewhat encouraging. Strikeouts are up. Walks are slightly up. If the strikeouts come back down, we get more high quality bat on ball, a little bit more good fortune over another 100 plate appearances. This could normalize to at least average numbers, but it's been concerning. Jonah Heim, at worst, a mix and match quality catcher with power upside. 259, 310, 432, 342 xWOBA with 4 home runs on the board, 8.1% barrels, 40% hard hits. Josh Young has an appealing 13.4% barrel rate over his 90 plate appearances. That's over here. 2 home runs, 2 steals, a 313 xWOBA, meh, 151 ISO, meh, but a 111 WRC plus, and the production that we saw from him 2 seasons ago. He was just hurt for most of last year. Krim, I'm going to skip over because he's not available to us. Leody Taveras is a mix and match quality outfielder with a little bit of pop and a little bit of speed. Brian Wu, Mariners bats, Rangers bats, in that order. Both bats are playable with these mid-4s run totals, but definitely Mariners against lighter would be the more appealing side of that. But both pitchers, for while they're in there, at least on the lighter side, capable of holding these teams down. Cubs and Brewers lineups, strangely not in. Most of the others are here. 5:02 on your clock. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe if you get a chance. Appreciate all you guys here hanging out. Regardless of whether you're just starting the show and you're putting it on 2x speed to catch up, whether you've been here since the beginning and you're tolerating all this meandering. But check out rotoscouts.com too if you guys get a chance. Everything's under $1 a day. Access all the baseball projections, the home run model, the top stacks tool, the home run picks, all of NBA the rest of the way through the playoffs, all of NHL the rest of the way through the playoffs, NFL when that's back around, under $1 a day for access to all of it. Check out acemine.io as well, our sim partner, promo code rotoscouts, still 20% off your first month over there. The Cubbies, the Brewers. Greg Biancone mentions it's apparently in the 40s in Chicago. That's cold. 466 implied total, 444 implied total for these two teams against these two pitchers, though. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. This game's, what am I talking? This game's in Milwaukee. Don't need to worry about that. You were talking about the actual Chicago game, this Chicago game. I'm already not chasing White Sox bats, obviously. I'm glad I realized that before I talked too long. That this game is in Milwaukee. Yeah, 49 degrees, 48 degrees. Wind blowing left to right and in. Definitely not good hitting weather. It's more just about the quality that you're getting in the top end of that against this pitcher. But yeah, that would probably be your reason that the Astros aren't at like a 5.5 run implied total. All right. Benji Brown, 6.04 ERA and a 4.01 xFIP. I believe in the 4.01 xFIP. I think the stuff is decent and can be effective at the major league level, as evidenced by the 24.6% strikeouts and the 13% swinging strike rate with a 32.3% CSW. He's gotten burnt by walks, 11.1% walks. He's given up a little bit of hard hit and premium contact. Home runs haven't really killed him, but he's putting way too many guys on base. That's why the ERA is inflated. It's been a little bit hit and miss over 25 innings, 5 starts. Last time out was the big meltdown, 6 earned runs over 9 hits in 3 2/3 against the Phillies. Struck out 5, walked 1. Start before that, just 1 earned run that came on a solo shot on 3 hits over 4 innings against the Diamondbacks. Struck out 6 in that game, but walked 4 and got the pitch count up there. Against the Dodgers, I mentioned this game earlier, 6 innings, 5 hitter, no earned runs, 5 strikeouts, no walks. Excellent game there. And then 4 innings, 5 innings of meh production, 5 runs to the Padres, 3 runs to the Athletics, 5 strikeouts in each of those appearances, and a long relief stint against the Dodgers with 5 Ks. I think the strikeout stuff at worst is real. I think you could throw that at some of these strikeout rates in this Brewers lineup and expect good results. 7,500, 7,400. He is on my discount list of pitchers. But like I said, I stared at these projections for a minute and decided whether or not I would artificially take them down a little bit, and I didn't. I'm letting Ben Brown kind of fly here. But I get it if you don't want to go there. This Brewers team is good enough to get him. 4.44 implied total is concerning. But on the right day, he finds a few strikeouts. Pays you off for a little bit of trust at 75. Quinn Priester at 66.71, carrying just a 15.3% strikeout, a 14.1% walk over 19 innings. Somehow a 3.79 ERA, but a 4.91 xFIP. He had one good start in there that came against Detroit on a day where we targeted him. 5 clean innings of 1 hit ball, struck out 4, but walked 3. Got lucky to get through that unscathed. Has been at best mediocre, gave up 5 earned runs on 8 hits in his most recent start against St. Louis, against a spectacularly good Cubs team in terms of getting on base, sequencing, creating run scoring opportunities. Really don't like the spot for Quinn Priester. Big believer in the Cubs total at 4.66. Definitely think we could go there and think we could play Brewers back at Ben Brown. So a question mark of playability. And then talking about the bats are going to end up ranked on top at the end of this. Ian Happ bouncing his way along. Some of this is good. Some of this is just a little underwhelming for where we would normally expect him. 2 home runs, 279, 365, 390. The run creation mark at 118. The xWOB at 363. All in line. The hard hits, the barrels are down a little bit. That's where the home runs, the home run totals may be off by 1 or 2 at this point in the season over 156 opportunities. But he's been good, and the price is down too much. 4,200 on DraftKings. They got too aggressive about that price cut. Maybe this performance has got him at 46, 47, something like that, down from a 5+ player. They went too far. 32 on FanDuel is more correct. Kyle Tucker at 62, 43, super playable, 8 home runs, 8 steals, one of the best players in baseball, full stop. Seiya Suzuki having a great start to his season. 295, 365, 625, 171 WRC plus, 9 home runs on the board, 17.9% barrels and 50% hard hits. Doing everything they expected from him and more in terms of the power upside. Michael Busch at 51, 3,000, 5 home runs, 354 xWOBA, 150 WRC plus. Got to have a little bit of faith in the hot start. We're already seeing signs around the edges of some cooling. 37.3% hard hits needs to come up. Barrels slipped 11.2 last year. We're down to 9.3. Something to watch at 5,100, 3,000. FanDuel's doing you a favor on that price. Carson Kelly at 52, very expensive at catcher. He's at 360, 507, 840 with a 465 xWOBA, a 256 WRC plus, 7 home runs in just 67 plate appearances. Is Carson Kelly the best hitter that's ever put on a uniform? No. But could he continue to surprise from the catcher spot? Yeah, I think he could. I don't think you want to pay $5,200 for it all that frequently. He's dramatically overpriced for this early production. As much as I'm usually inserting catchers into stacks when we talk about them on DraftKings, I'm not removing Carson Kelly from the equation, but that price makes him one of the more skippable pieces in the heart of this lineup. It could burn you. I do believe in some level of quality from that bat. It's just not this level. Nico hit to a little bit of speed. Pete Crow Armstrong surging, 6 home runs, 12 steals, 266, 305, 508. Still has some work to do in terms of the on base, but he's been driving the ball very effectively. He's been very, very interesting. Dansby, 42, 3,000, 6 home runs, 4 steals, hit a homer the other day when we talked about him. He's just cheap. Look at the premium contact. It's right where it's supposed to be. It's a little higher than it's been the last couple of seasons. I don't care about much else with this hitter. I know that he's going to come through more often than not is the wrong way to put that, but I know that he's going to come through. I know that he's going to hit us our home runs that we need for a cheap shortstop. John Birdie and Nico Horner, very similar mix and match guys that can go back and forth with. You're looking for average. You're looking for some base hits and some stolen bases with some correlated scoring. Horner kind of works with, like if you're taking several guys from here and you're including Pete Crow Armstrong, that's when I would throw Horner in, assuming that this is the batting order, where Birdie kind of functions less so as a end cap to these guys and more so as a starting point to wrap around to those guys. On the Brewers side, mid-fours total for them as well. Bryce Turang, 311, 368, 402. We've talked about the contact levels going up. If he continues to do that, we're talking about a kid who's an emergent star at second base and one of the better daily options at second base. He's getting on base a lot, steals bases like crazy, already did that, and now he's driving the ball. Very interesting option. Going up against Ben Brown, easy to click on at 51.34 if you're going to the Brewers. Jackson Chourio, 52.37. We're at just a 277 on base now. 302 xWOBA, 1.4% walk rate. He's lucky he can crush the ball when he hits it. 6 home runs, 107 WRC plus. There are some lingering signs of some sophomore-itis here, though. Kid's very, very good. You're definitely including him when you go to the Brewers, but it's been a little bit bumpy. Christian Yelich, assuming he's in the lineup, got a day off the other day, but I think we get him back. 4,800, too cheap on DraftKings. 3,700 is more correct on FanDuel. 5 home runs, 6 steals, doing Christian Yelich things out there. He's a priority when you go to the Brewers. William Contreras, very playable catcher bat on DraftKings at 44. A lot less appealing at 32 on FanDuel. You don't really need him, but he's a better hitter than his 250, 364, 352 would suggest. 101 WRC plus, 3 homers, 4 steals so far this season. He can give you more upside than that, so he's very playable. It's just, I don't want to get into a back and forth with Rhys Hoskins, William Contreras, and occupy both first base and util. So now it's just a matter of how many Brewer stacks I build. Because if I'm building one, they're probably not both in it, and I probably take the additional upside of power that Rhys Hoskins provides. Sal Frelick, just another outfielder with a good hit tool, a little bit of speed. That's about all he is. Hoskins has been performing very well this season. 276, 402, 402, a 357 xWOBA, just 3 home runs on the board, just a 126 ISO. He's gotten unlucky, but he's been mashing the ball when he makes contact with it, and that's his skill set. Same is true for Jake Bauers, except for any kind of shades of consistency in there. 225, 344, 25, but a 200 ISO, a 342 xWOBA, 2 home runs in 47 plate appearances, 18.2% barrels. These two guys at the bottom, Joey Ortiz, Caleb Durbin, mix and match. You can get those guys into lineups. Ortiz has been a disaster so far this year. Durbin's been okay. Cubs bats, Brewers bats, Ben Brown mostly on DraftKings. I wish I had seen that note several minutes ago. When did that change? God damn it. All right, Tyler Alexander now pitching for the Brewers. I literally checked every starter just to make sure before the show started. So that changed after the show started. All right, I'm going to do this. We're just going to cheat it real quick. Ignore the lineup changes on the Cubs side. We'll see what we end up getting. That's just the projected lineup against the lefty because Tyler Alexander's left-handed. So far this season, Alexander's at a 4.71 ERA, a 4.76 xFIP. Those basically match. 20% strikeouts, 11.7% walks. Hasn't really allowed much in terms of home runs, but there's plenty of fly balls for the Cubbies to attack here. He's walking 11.7%. He is as exploitable from the left side as Quinn Priester was from the right side. I'll get that updated on the site as soon as the show's over. Both these teams, low totals. We're talking pitching in this one. Let's see if we got the Mets lineup. I think between the two teams, the Mets, even with a more established semi-ace level Sonny Gray on the mound, the Mets are the more playable of these two lineups just because they're by far the better of these two lineups. But really, I'm looking mostly at the arms. Clay Holmes for just 81 on DraftKings, 91 on FanDuel is a noteworthy uptick. Pitching to a 2.64 ERA with a 3.23 xFIP in support of the good number there. 27.5% strikeout rate. 9.9% walks. He's got to clean up a little bit. 9.8% swinging is adequate. 28.5% CSW for the converted reliever. What I like most, 4.6 degree average launch. Keeps the ball down like crazy. No home runs allowed in his 6 starts. Love that upside. Cuts into the Cardinals' power upside, and they're already not a good power hitting team. Really like Clay Holmes here. Would pay 91 on FanDuel. Enthusiastically would pay 81 on DraftKings. Sonny Gray at 83.95. It's kind of similar. Enthusiastically would pay 83 on DraftKings. 95 is up there on FanDuel, considering the quality of this Mets lineup, considering the low strikeout nature of this Mets lineup, the power that they've got. But Sonny's more than talented enough to get through them. 3.60 ERA with a 3.51 xFIP, Sonny Gray-esque, except for last year, obviously. A 23.9 to a 5.1 ratio. Looks more like the Sonny from 2 years ago. Last year, he saw that big uptick. I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. Feels like he doesn't get enough credit for a 30+% strikeout rate, 5.8% walk last year, 3.84 ERA, but a 2.82 xFIP underneath it, 13.4% swinging. We've seen, again, kind of a regression back to the 23, 22 versions, which were perfectly serviceable. That's still a good pitcher. So this version of Sonny, good enough to get through the Mets. If he finds last year's form for a night, he could find some additional Ks here. 83 is a great price on DraftKings. Vegas thinks so. Sub 4 total. If you're taking bats, again, do it from the Mets. Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto are priorities. So is Pete Alonso. That's kind of obvious. Any show in the world should be telling you that. Lindor at 298, 362, 484. His creator runs 38% better than average. He's doing everything that you would expect from him. Soto has been a disappointment so far for the Mets. You can't argue with it. 252, 379, 443, just 5 home runs. But it's Juan Soto. He's going to be fine. 133 WRC plus, a 361 xWOBA. They were talking to somebody on Central who at the beginning of the year had a hot take. You know, he's, Juan Soto in Queens. He's going to be Juan Soso. And they brought him back the other day to slap him on the back for the fact that he was so over April. Let's bring that guy back in October and see what Juan Soto's numbers look like then. Pete Alonso is more than made up for it. 342, 475, 649. He's been ridiculous. 7 home runs on the board. Just under a 20% barrel rate. Just under 60% hard hits. Not striking out. Drawing like crazy walks at 17%. I think those normalize at least a little bit as time goes on. But Pete is on a mission right now. Brendan Nimmo is just cheap at 4,000, 3,000. Doesn't hit for average anymore. Doesn't get on base consistently like he used to. But the 336 xWOBA suggests those things should come back. There's a little bit of misfortune going on there. 11.7% barrels and 58.5% hard hits. Plenty of home runs. 6 on the board already in 124 plate appearances. Can definitely get some cheap Brendan Nimmo in there. Helps average down the salaries if nothing else. Those 3 are expensive, but you hit that and then that, or more accurately, that then Vientos. Now I'm at 4,600 a man, and I'm getting Lindor, Soto, and Alonso in there with Brendan Nimmo and Mark Vientos. Nothing wrong with skipping Nimmo, honestly, and taking Jesse Winker and getting essentially everything I said about Brendan Nimmo with Jesse Winker and his left-handed bat there, and that brings your average down to 4,400 a man. Slightly over, but close enough. 4,420. Love that little stretch of hitters where everybody's cheap and it brings these prices down. You don't need to dabble with Jeff McNeil, but you could if you needed, if you wanted to. He's just a BABIP player. Put the ball in play, rely on good fortune to get to first base, and then he needs help from his friends. Francisco Alvarez, 1 home run in his 23 plate appearances. We saw a ton of homers from him in a short sample a couple years ago. Was up and down throughout last year, but the power is very real. On the right day at 3,600, that definitely plays. And Luis Angel, pretty good over his 79 plate appearances so far at 288, 342, 356. Rating runs 2% better than average. 7 stolen bases. Nothing wrong with that for a cheap price to wrap back around to the top at second base on DraftKings is ideal. For 24 on FanDuel, you put him at second base, not shortstop, because you want Frankie Lindor in there. No qualms if you wanted to average down by going 1 or 9, 1, 2, 3, and then any one of the 3 cheaper guys there. Has the same impact as far as that price. Maybe go Vientos and try and connect the dots, connect both sides of that. And that's 4,460 a man. You fill out your full infield plus one outfielder. What you don't get there is the catcher. So you're drawing a catcher and 2 outfielders from another team. They're at least interesting. Sonny's not invulnerable on the mound. You can get to Sonny. He's allowing an 8.3% barrel so far, 3.62% home runs. The card side of this, I don't really like. Lars Nootbaar would be the priority bat, 45-32 from the left side. Not much else. Brendan Donovan at least can hit the ball fairly hard from the left side and is not expensive at second base. Mason Wynn hasn't been the hitter that he was last year so far this year, but he is creating runs 8% better than average. Nolan Arenado basically dead at the plate. 3 home runs, still 6% better than average for run creation. He's getting on base a little bit, but that's all he's doing right now. Wilson Contreras has been kind of lost and isn't as valuable at first base. Alec Burleson, mix and match quality guy. Nolan Gorman, monster power, great barrel rate, demonstrable power over the last couple of seasons, but tons of strikeouts and not enough support from anything else that he does to make him really viable at this level. 185, 292, 333. That's kind of who he is. 332 xWOBA, but a 73 WRC plus. You're just homer hunting there against the guy who really doesn't give up power. Pedro Paz, Victor Scott, mix and match guys down lineup. Victor Scott at least has a lot of speed, but doesn't get on base all that consistently. 336 so far this year, 109 WRC plus, but a 219 over 155 last year, and that was the only major league experience. This is Clay Holmes, Sonny Gray, Mets bats. I wouldn't stretch to the fourth corner. 3 out of 4 though. 2 games ago, Tigers Angels. Angels lineup is in, but they're facing Tarek School. And they don't have Mike Trout. So I'm really not that interested in the Angels. They are not nearly as interesting as they've been throughout much of the season so far. I do like Zach Neto. I do like Nolan Chaniel now that he's back up at the top of the lineup where we can take advantage of that good on-base percentage. Jorge Soler still pulling down an 8.27 in the home run model, even against Tarek Skubal. He's hit 6 so far this season. Taylor Ward has 6, but he's down at a 5.76 in the home run model. Logan O'Hoppe has 9 home runs on the year. Great slash line, a 339 xWOBA, 150 WRC plus, just a 6.08 in the home run model. But his premium contact has been very, very real. You can't deny what they've done. And this was a team at the very beginning of the year. I said, I think we're going to be enthusiastic about them before anybody else is. But with no Mike Trout facing the best left-handed pitcher in baseball, lot of skepticism as to whether we get any production at all. Vegas agrees at a 316 implied total. I think you can write off the Angels lineup today. Tigers lineup, you definitely want to have some of 4.43 implied total for that hard-hitting group of bats. That said, they're going up against Jose Soriano, who is currently keeping hitters to a negative 1.3 average launch angle. That's not nothing. Now, with that, he's somehow managed to allow 9.6% barrels in his batted ball events on a 90.7 mile an hour average exit velo, 45.2% hard hits. So you are getting some guys, when he makes mistakes, able to elevate the ball and drive it for power. He's given up a couple of home runs, but not too many. Hasn't really been finding the strikeout despite some good stuff. 4.50 ERA, but a 3.60 xFIP, walking way too many guys on base. It does equal opportunities for the Tigers, and he's not really cutting the power out of the equation, given what the results have been. But you could see if they catch him on the wrong day, him just completely sap power out of this team, grab a bunch of ground balls, find a few Ks. They're striking out at a 25.9% clip with this projected lineup. So I do like the strikeout upside maybe to rear its head for Soriano. Last year, he was at a 20.7% rate over 20 starts, 113 innings, kept the ball to a negative 0.9 degree average launch, just 1.71% home runs, slightly below the mark by Stuff Plus, but a 10.1% swinging strike rate. And the reason that there's some faith out there in the community that he does have strikeout upside is 42 relief innings 2 years ago, 30.3% Ks, a 14.8% swinging strike rate, 33.9% CSW. Just can't ramp it up like that as a starter, but has some very high quality pitches. So I think it's a little bit both sided. 6,900 is the right price to find out on DraftKings. 7,700 is the right price to find out on FanDuel, but it's a high danger spot, and Vegas is giving the Tigers credit for that. Carpenter, 10 plus in the home run model. Love that lefty power. 15.9% barrels, 41.5% hard hits, 7 home runs already, a 374 xWOBA. Very, very real option for power upside in the top of the lineup or wherever he's hitting. Like the idea of grabbing some of the lefty bats going down the lineup. McKinstry is more a hit tool, get on base type, and he's not as good as he might look in his slash line so far this season at 316, 405, 459. But he's a playable piece of stacks in this team. The priority bats, though, are Carpenter, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson. Those are your 3 absolute musts in this lineup. Green at 262, 313, 451, carrying a 118 WRC plus, 6 home runs. Torque has 9 home runs on the board. We've already started the decline in some of the other areas, though. 239, 353, 549. Still a monster 414 xWOBA showing under the covers, though. A 154 WRC plus, 17.5% barrels. All he needs to do is continue doing what he's doing, and we're looking at a massive return to form in a star caliber season. Colt Keith is very, very cheap for his once upon a time prospect pedigree, but we haven't seen much of that in the show so far this year. Up and down season last year, didn't deliver the power we were expecting. Dingler, Sweeney, Javi Baez, and Jace Young, all mix and match parts going down this lineup. Oddly, Javi Baez has been the best option out of that group. 91 pretty good plate appearances from Javi. This is probably the best stretch of production he's provided in the last 3 years. 291, 330, 430, pair of home runs. Creator runs 20% better than average. That's buried by a 262 xWOBA that tells us it's not actually real. But at least maybe he's out there trying, playing him in center field. It's very much about the top, 4 guys and then pick your poison going down the lineup. Dylan Dingler's been pretty good if you want the catcher at 41. I don't love that price, but 11.9% barrels, 47.5% hard hits, 4 home runs, a 209 ISO, 127 WRC plus. Difficult to argue with in the small sample. But again, I have enough healthy respect for Soriano's ability to keep the ball in the yard. I don't love it. And then I didn't actually go through Scooble, but you guys know he's the best lefty in baseball, right? 118 marked by Stuff Plus, 2.34 ERA. Monster strikeout rate, doesn't really walk anybody, absurd swinging strike rate. You guys get it. Tarek Scooble's the top priority from this game and the top priority pitcher as the top projected pitcher at any price in any matchup. You just play Tarek Scooble all you want. On the other side of that, the rest of the way for this game, it's probably Tigers bats. Scooble, Tigers bats. Soriano, no Angels bats. Or very few Angels bats as a just wild contrarian option if you're going to do it. And as always, when we talk about that, we don't like doing that against the very best pitchers in baseball. Whose lineup did I just grab? The Rockies. One last time, hit the like button if you're still out there. Appreciate all you guys. Subscribe to the channel. We're at 970, whatever it says down there that you guys can see, and I can't subscribers so far. If I get that over 1,000 subscribers, it means something in the algorithm. It means I can also, ask for super chats and stuff like that. And you guys can show the love that way. It just helps. All right. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your mom, subscribe to the channel, and then just completely ignore it for the rest of your life if you don't play DFS. If it's you guys subscribing, obviously come back every day and tell your DFS playing friends. But I just want raw subscriptions. I don't care where they come from right now. I just need to get that over 1,000. So please do that. Appreciate you guys. Tango, I did go into Hogland. I do think that is a very viable option on DraftKings. 4,000 on DraftKings. That's typically we're talking about guys where it's he's an extended opener. He's a guy or maybe a bulk reliever where we're talking about, all right, 3 innings, 4 innings, maybe, but not a good shot at a win bonus unless things go, wacky. With him being a pure starter stretched out for 5-6 innings against one of the worst lineups in baseball with adequate stuff. Yeah, very, very much think that's an option. I don't want to get too over the moon about it, but it's a great value building block. It's got the Apple box appeal of just, even if he's bad at 4,000, you spent a cheap hitter price on that pitcher spot. You only need the handful of points. So the way I put it was, even if he gives up a few runs, let's say even if he gives up 4 runs, if you've gotten through 5, you've probably still gotten what you need. Yeah, that's really all it's about is the, what that projection, he's toward the bottom of the board in the raw projection, but in a per dollar sense, you pick up value there. It also depends on how you're building lineups. If you're building lineups in a way to exploit value like that, he becomes kind of a priority. If you're building lineups where that's not necessarily as big a factor, it's more about how the stacks come together and then whatever fits with it, you could probably leave them on the board a little bit more. But there's no denying the purchasing power of a $4,000 pitcher with an actual shot at 5 innings against that lineup. Rockies. I might get into a little trouble with some Rockies one-offs and a couple of small Rocky stacks here in my lineups. Some appealing power numbers here. There really are. There's no consistency. None of these guys are what I would call good. But I would say the same thing about Robbie Ray. There's no consistency here. 3.73 ERA, but a 4.52 xFIP so far, giving up a 3.73% home run rate on 12.2% barrels, a 16-degree average launch, a 45.1% hard hit, a 92-mile-an-hour average exit velo allowed, while walking 14.2%. Yeah, he's inducing a 13% swinging strike rate against a team that's striking out at nearly a 30% clip, 29.9 for this confirmed Rockies lineup this year, 28.4 for this same group of hitters last year, and several of these guys strike out at very high clips against left-handed pitching. This most likely is a spectacular Robbie Ray spot. He projects as the second highest pitcher on the board. I'm not taking anything away from the Robbie Ray side of this equation outside of the fact that he's maddeningly inconsistent, tends to blow these opportunities, has not been good this year, was absent for the better part of the last 2 years, was only okay in the 30 innings we had him for last year, and it's the same problems. Strikeouts, yes. Swinging strikes, yes. Way too many walks, though. ERA and xFIP were actually all right, but way too many home runs on too many barrels. Year before doesn't count. Year before that, 4.13. Even when he was good for strikeouts, good ERA, good xFIP, still has always given up power. The right couple guys get on base. Let's say we're starting an inning. He blazes a trail through these guys in the first 3 innings. And now we're coming back around for the 4th. He's starting to tire a little bit. Brenton Doyle comes up, sporting his 6.4% walk rate this year and 7.6% walk rate last year, and singles. And then Jordan Beck works a walk because he's been doing that a little bit over his 69 plate appearances. Now we're first and second for Hunter Goodman and his very real right-handed power. 5 home runs on the board, a 198 ISO so far this year, just 8.1% barrels, 43.2% hard hits, but last year in the show, 12.8% barrels, a history through the minor leagues of hitting home runs. Model loves him for one today, 12.66. Bang. 3-run shot. That ruins your Robbie Ray day. Maybe not ruins it, 86, 84. Maybe you're still lingering. He strikes out. Ryan McMahon reclaims some of those points. Then Michael Talia comes up, a dude he's expected to strike out 4 times today, even though he's only going to face him 2.5 times. But say Talia puts the right swing on the ball. This is a guy who can draw a walk even. So Ray might lose him to that. Ray might just lose one to this absurd level of contact that he was making last year, that on the front side of the barrel rate is still okay at 9%. I know Michael Talia has been bad. I know he's striking out at a 37.1% rate. But I know there's real power there too. It's a bad lineup. They're most likely not going to succeed. They're coming in at a 3-run total. Vegas doesn't like it. But Robbie Ray at absurd popularity, even at a cheap price. He absolutely belongs in a bunch of your lineups. But I think the move is to undercut the field. There are so many good options today. I don't think we need to get crazy overweight to Robbie Ray. I think you should absolutely play him. My expectation is the successful Robbie Ray outing. And the price is undeniably good. If you play him, when you play him, it's not anything like a 1-for-1. It's more like probably a 1-for-5. Or a 5-for-1. For every 5 Robbie Rays you have, maybe you grab a Rockies 3-man. Maybe you grab a Rockies 1-off. Just put some of this lurking power upside into a lineup or 2. Because it is threatening enough to a pitcher like this where it might matter. And if they ruin his day, you want to be a part of it. But again, make no mistake, I'd be looking you dead in the eyes on the camera right now if I was on screen. I want you to understand that I think Robbie Ray is one of the best pitching options with all of that said. Spectacular ceiling ability here. Just a lot of creepy basement ability as well. Antonio Sensatella has none of that. No appeal whatsoever, and you should throw Giants bats at him. 5.09 implied total for the Giants lineup. Fire away. Sensatella, sub 10% strikeout rate, I think says it all. Not really walking anybody, but what does it matter? This team should destroy this pitcher. Yaz at 46-31, 8.10 in the home run model. He's hit 5 this season, 347 ex-WOBA. Good home run hitter, excellent line drive hitter. Fairly low strikeout rate so far this year. That probably pushes back up some, but he's also drawing more walks, showing a little bit of patience at the plate, over 111. It's an interesting bat for the prices they asked for him. Willie Adames is all the way down at 36-26. It's been an atrocious 141 plate appearances, 2 home runs, 218, 298, 306. That's coming off of 688 plate appearances of 251, 331, 462, 119 WRC plus, 32 homers and 21 steals. At some point, we're getting at least some of that production back. Hasn't been terrible in terms of the barrels and the hard hits. They're down, but they're still good. Jung-Hoo Lee, 316, 372, 521, 3 homers, 3 steals. Great table setter in this lineup. Love him hitting ahead of Matt Chapman. That's a bat I've been raving about forever. Love that swing. 5 home runs on the board. Yeah, he's slashing just 200, 353, 373. But the on base supports the upside, supports the run creation at a 112 WRC plus. The 335 ex-WOBA suggests that we're fine as far as the production goes. Wilmer is just a mix and match guy who hits you the occasional home runs. You can always play some Wilmer Flores. Elliot Ramos is more interesting than that. Very real barrel rates, 13% this year, 14.5 last year. 5 home runs on the board, a 333 ex-WOBA so far this season. A little bit limited in terms of the slash line so far. Last year it was at 269, 322, 469. So far this year, 248, 312, 424. It's not a crazy dip, but it's a little bit of a dip in a small sample. But what we care about here is the power. 22 homers and 518 last year, 200 ISO, creator runs 20% better than average. Kid's just good. Hits the ball very, very hard. Lamont Wade still scuffling. 123, 250, 235. It's the worst 97 plate appearances of his life, probably at any level. Patrick Bailey, Christian Kost down lineup. Tyler Fitz went on the IL, the guy we like typically down the bottom of the lineup here. So it shortens this lineup a little bit, especially with Wade struggling if this is the version we get. But 1 through 6 should be elite, and there's no reason to believe that Lamont Wade couldn't have a day. Patty Bailey couldn't have a day against this pitcher. You fire away with whatever the Giants put out there tonight. Giants bats, Robbie Ray. Rockies in limited doses just to be contrarian against Robbie Ray. This is the pitcher that I would take those contrarian shots with. I kind of wish it was a different lineup, but at least we get power bats. Again, don't want anybody coming in here on Monday saying, hey, man, you told me to play a bunch of Rocky stacks and not to play Robbie Ray. That is not what we're saying. We're just saying there's a chance. So you're saying there's a chance. With that in mind, you guys, let me pop real quick over to the home run board one more time. We'll pop over to the pitching board after that, and then we'll say our goodbyes. That's your home run board. There are a ridiculous number of, no longer Oakland, unfortunately, but Athletics up toward the top of this home run board. It's also changed a little bit since the last time I tons of power showing. Big power day today, but also a day for a lot of good pitching. Really like the upside in some of these spots that we talked about. Love the upside for that A's lineup. Yanks showing off with some power. Brent Rooker now out ahead of Aaron Judge. Soderstrom, Langoliers, Lawrence Butler, 4 out of the top 5 on the home run border from the Athletics lineup. You've also got Kurtz down there. Seth Brown lurking down here at 11.59. That gives us 6 guys above the magic number. 7 if we're counting JJ Bleday now. A lot of power showing for the A's. No promises, but I love the look of that spot, guys. Scrolling over to the pitching board one last time just so you can get a last quick look at it. Love that option. Scared of that option, but a great price. We talked about the downside. Love that option. Love that option. Love that option. This option is a high danger chance, but definitely very, very talented. I like Clay Holmes better than I like Joe Ryan against the Red Sox, though, on both sides for a cheaper price on both. Cheaper price on both sides. Give me Clay Holmes if I'm going head to head there. Clay Holmes over Sonny Gray just for the matchup against the Cards versus the matchup against the Mets. Brian Wu is really interesting on DK. And as I said, if you're looking to get away from 86 for Robbie Ray, which is a great price, again, given the upside in that game. But if you're looking to get away from the roller coaster, walk on over to the Ferris wheel. 81, 83, 84. Cheaper pricing on all 3 of those very talented, reliable pitchers in worse matchups, sure. But you're saving money versus what's going to be a ludicrously popular and not necessarily guaranteed in any way, Robbie Ray. Brown, loosely playable for some strikeout upside there. Waka, loosely playable at a cheap price there. Soriano, loosely playable for a cheap price. Need him to keep the ball in the yard, find his Ks against that lineup. Would play, though, at 69, at 77. He's good enough to play. Pepio, good enough to play against the Yanks. Don't love it on FanDuel at the 87, 78. Much more appealing on DK. Not in love with any of these options until we get down to Hoagland. And that's mostly about that DK price. As I said, doesn't need to do much. If you get 12 points here, you're ecstatic for your 4,000. Even if he doesn't, it's not disastrous to have played him. On FanDuel, it's just about the fact that I don't see him getting the quality start that many times. I think we're probably talking about 5 and change, gets in trouble in the 6, comes out. I think you would need the quality start to compete with the likely scoring of that group of pitchers. 2 or 3 guys from that group will break loose for pretty solid numbers today. So even at half the price, you need him to really put up a good number on FanDuel. And then the bottom of the board is ugly. With that in mind, you guys, let me get some lineups updated. We're coming up on 5:40. Plenty of time for building with a 7:05 start. I'll keep an eye on hockey and basketball, but we only got 1 game apiece in those sports. Everything's been up on the site all afternoon, so check that out at rotoscouts. Access to all of it, baseball, hockey, basketball, under $1 a day, all in for all 3 sports. Give that a look. Like, subscribe, follow at rotoscouts over on the old Twitters and X's and such. Let me drop a link to Discord in the channel here real quick, too. Oh, actually, you know what? It's in the description. There's a link to Discord. There's also links to the site in the description below this video, so click on those. And leave comments. That also feeds the algorithm. If you want to comment on the video, stuff I got right, stuff I got wrong, stuff you disagree with, just general thank yous and I hate yous or whatever you want to tell me, drop them all in there. It all feeds the algorithm. Really appreciate all you guys. Good luck out there tonight. Have great weekends. Somebody go win something. Share the results when you do. And we will see you back here for shows on Monday. Content all weekend. Later, gang.